It's going to be a long one today, folks. Hello again, friends.
It already was.
And you are our friends. Welcome to the special early morning edition. Welcome back for another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru. We've got a lot of wrestling to talk about. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. You know, every now and then you hear a critique of us that says, you don't like wrestling. You just don't like wrestling. And it was yesterday I realized they were right. I don't like wrestling. But here he is, the star of the show. We got a lot of wrestling to review. The leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Last. You are indeed a gentleman and a scholar to give me that big build-up, and you're the one that made me watch all the wrestling. If it wasn't for you, I feel a duty. I feel a duty to show up and for work here on this program. It's your show, by the way, just for the people who may want to leave a comment afterwards. But I feel a duty to watch this stuff and show up and talk about it. And now you're the first one to complain. I feel there's something fishy about that.
Well, there was certainly a fishy smell when it came
brought it on yourself.
When it came to premium live events this weekend.
Well, when you were just jumping right in. What about your organ playing, by the way? Your organing.
Yes.
You just went into another. It didn't have the bright pippy. It was just kind of dirge like there.
Now I know the extra little. Now I know what exactly is your favorite.
You need the little right there in the middle when you change gears up there. The little There's a little No, I'm happy about one thing. Top Tom Tilly Tail.
No.
Please make it stop.
I just want the music. It just has to play once.
Are you slapping it now?
Well, it's
not going to play.
Yeah.
It's not going to play that music, no matter how much you try at this point.
Like the real Inoki, it won't sell. And you know what? I hear it now. It is arigato. It's just not pronounced the same way like they do in the Styx song, as Jace put it. But it's arigato.
So after all this time and all this vehement denial that that's what the thing is saying, now you just come out with that and just kill the whole deal.
Again, he highlights...
It sounds like Tiger Doe to me.
Wait, see, here's the thing. If it is arigato, that's thank you, correct? That's what that means?
Yeah, according to Mr. Roboto.
So again, the little keychain's bigger than all the keys put together. This giant keychain of Antonio Inoki with a sound box. It's him ripping off his robe yelling, "Thank you!" I mean, that makes it even more ridiculous. You never hear anyone say, Antonio Inoki with his famous thank you yell.
Why don't you just sit there and contemplate the whole situation silently with Antonio there, while I just let you know what I was trying to say a minute ago, that it's raining here in Louisville. I'm proud to announce. Right here on top of me, it is currently raining. Remember when I was complaining about the floods and the torrential rain? Well, we complained too much because we had the driest August on record for the city here, and I don't think it has rained a drop in the month of September. And suddenly today it started raining. Now it's supposed to rain this week, but you can listen to the rhythm of the falling rain out there if you like. But that's the one thing that I'm happy about. The whole town is soggy, and that's the thing that makes me happy. How many people, Brian, have the the lack of any responsibility, anything to do, any family obligations, work, whatever, to watch 9 or 10 hours of wrestling on the same day.
Oh, that was the end of the question. I don't know.
Yes, there was. That's why there was the inflection of day with the question mark implied there at the end of it. How can you do this?
It's a lot, and nothing's as easy as just DVRing it at this point. You have to be on different things to watch different things. You have to pay different. I mean, you had to pay for the AEW event, no matter where you, even if you watch on Max, you just got like a $10 discount, but you still had to pay on Max. And then Amazon Prime is how I watched it, where it's the same amount as it would be on pay-per-view, which is not a thing anymore, but they still have a pay-per-view website.
Yes.
But you don't get any of the pre-show. So I don't know, it's a blessing or a curse, depending on how you see it. And then WWE, it took me a while to, first of all, get over the frustration with just signing up for the ESPN app. It's not offered through my cable company yet. And then figuring out how to just get it without having to change anything else I have, because I have Disney and Hulu for the kids. But I'm not changing on getting a different bundle for something I'm going to cancel as soon as I can.
See, I have it a little easier than you do, Brian, because if it was up to me and it wasn't on fucking television, I'd just say, fuck it, I can't get it. But I went to the director of communications for Castle Cornette, Queen Stacy, and she figured out that because the first good thing Spectrum's ever done for us, because we have Spectrum, we get the thing that we need to get. And I said, well, can you put it on the TV and the TV? She showed me how, and we have to go to Disney. Because now Disney, and more on this in a second, Disney owns the thing that owns the ESPN and their associated fucking businesses. Sooner or later, we're going to figure it out. Howard Hughes is still alive, and he's the guy at the top that owns everything.
It's a lot of toenails.
So we had to go to the Disney app on the TV that she installed there, and then you get the goddamn variety of things that are on the Disney app, including the ESPN and all the other shit. So I still don't know what I'm watching. Besides, now I'm watching wrestling on Disney. That's the only way my brain can compute it. But we got the thing without having to sign up for it because it's Spectrum, as I said. But did you see just before we get back to the wrestling apps and streaming, they wanted this thing to make a ton of money, or they wanted the WWE to make a ton of money for the new ESPN app. And they've done all this big publicity and this big launch and everything. They're trying to get people to sign up for this. It's the same week Disney is also ABC, and because they canceled Jimmy Kimmel, they lost like, what was it, $7 billion, and goddamn people crashed the site trying to cancel it. So I think they're going to be at a negative net loss anyway, because all that they did to try to pitch Wrestlepalooza to get people to sign up was the week they had their largest ever fuck you, we're canceling fucking moment.
Even if that hadn't happened, I think clearly they were in a panic. They spent so much time on SmackDown on Friday trying to do cheesy little segments with R-Truth to make sure people understood ESPN. But still, it didn't really, when I ended up going, I was like, how the fuck do I do this? What the fuck? And it took me a while. And it was a pain in the ass. But they were panicked, I think, that not even because of any political scandals, but just because of the idea they introduced a new app and all of a sudden they're off Peacock. That was less than a month ago, right?
Yes. They did, when they announced it, the app didn't exist yet.
And again, you go to Disney. Some people are just trying to go to the ESPN app. You go to Disney, you have to go to ESPN, then you have to go to ESPN Live, then you have to sign up for it if you don't already have it through one of your services. And then they try to upsell you a bundle of Hulu and Disney Plus with ESPN, with this version of ESPN, which just so happens to be the most expensive one. If you look at it, it's like ESPN Basic or ESPN this. Everything has like a different thing. There's a Hulu Live versus Hulu Premium. Like there's all these differences. And this is the most expensive one. So like I said, as soon as my cable company offers it, I'm canceling it through this and signing up through that. And I think a whole lot of other people are going to do that. I'm dying to see what kind of numbers, if anything, will come out about this. Because I'm dying to see what percentage of the audience actually watched it.
Well, here's the thing, not even talking about the cost. And I know some people, the modern generation will be, well, it's no problem to sign up and cancel it away. It's just for the average person. This is not like, Jesus Christ, house on fire. Got to call the fire department. This is, I want to watch this wrestling show, but I can't fucking find it. Can't figure it out. They said ESPN. What's Disney got to do with it? What's love got to do with it? There's going to be, and as you said, because they were trying to explain it in cheesy segments, there's still, think about it, when they just switched cable networks every so great often back in the day, there was confusion and etc. Now they're asking people to do an internet version of Twister.
Now there's resentment that comes with the confusion. That's the issue. There's resentment from various different ways, for various different people thinking various different things. So you have resentment, confusion, cost. I'm dying to see what this is going to do.
And now over on the other side, at least AEW, I can't get actual pay-per-view television anymore. But I'm like you, I got it on the Amazon Prime Video service. And they had plugged the 0 hour, the pre-show. I think they were going to do some kind of tailgate party. If you bought it through Amazon, you got a canned pre-taped show in an empty building with Renee Moxley-Good, Bryan Danielson, and fucking RJ Reynolds. What's his name? They're good enough. Just sitting there talking and pitching the packages. But if you bought it or got it or watched it through some other service, you got the stream of their parking lot thing. But why is there different? Why are they showing different shit on different goddamn platforms is what I'm asking you.
I don't exactly know. AEW ends up being a good deal. I mean, if you think about it, it ends up being for like $50, it's like $2 an hour.
Well,
endless fucking pay-per-views. You're like, man, I get my money's worth, and now I'm going to get my sleep's worth. Like, just they keep bringing it to you.
Well, let me ask you this, though. $2, would you, if you're in the dentist chair, which is why we're doing this so quickly, the turnaround, because I'm about to be in less than 24 hours getting my teeth pulled. That's why I had to do all this in such a quick fashion. Would you want to pay a little more, just get it over with a little quicker? So both of these companies have their various issues, as we will talk about as we go further, but just the WWE has never made more money, and it's putting on shows of a technical fashion. If you're talking about a television program, fucking incredible. But are they almost, holding the show's ransom at this point for people to be able to figure out where to go to pay the ransom to get their loved ones back so they can watch their wrestling?
And the other thing too is AEW, you buy an AEW pay-per-view, that's what you get. WWE, now seemingly no matter what streaming platform it's on, you get commercials in between the matches.
Oh, yeah, 3.5 minutes. It's got a little clock on the screen, so it can tell you how long you got to piss.
Think about that. I mean, I don't think it's like that for every other program that goes to streaming. It's not like, all right, now.
There's advertisements in the body of the premium live event where they're talking about the next pay-per-view or selling the merchandise or talking about their sponsor. And then they go to, in between every match, a 3.5 minute long commercial break where they show actual fucking commercials.
How many times did they show a commercial for Smashing Machine?
I couldn't tell whether that was in the 3.5 minute break or in the program content, but there was quite a number.
Yeah, good point. Good point. But yeah.
A
lot of wrestling over the last few days. All right, it's going to be obviously a banner episode of the Drive Thru. Of course, a normal Drive Thru next week when we have more time and there's less things happening and companies trying to put other companies out of business.
And also I've hopefully successfully had my teeth pulled. And by the way, that's the thing, brother. They're putting me under now. So this could be a landmark episode if things don't work out. You know, I've seen the headlines, guy under anesthesia in medical procedure, you know.
It's not like we hear about people putting you over, so I guess under's the only other way to go. But Jim, of course, before you go under, the brand new book coming to Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com, Heroes and Friends.
Golly gee, I'd almost forgotten, but since we are there, we will plug that quickly. Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern is the holiday sale premiere debut extravaganza where that book will go on sale with my profiles and photographs and reproduced historical memorabilia of 12 great superstars in professional wrestling: Bobby Heenan, The Sheik, Bruno Sammartino, Ray Stevens, The Dream Machine, Paul Bearer, Vader, Boo Bradley, Sputnik Monroe, Lance Russell, Ron Wright, and Pat Malone, the Green Shadow, with never before revealed behind the scenes meanderings, shall we say, and incredible illustrations, full color photography, except for the people who are in black and white. And I mentioned it on the previous program, Brian, the 10, 20, 40 sale on action figures, all remaining Jim Cornette action figures, $10 off. All the Midnight Express and Heavenly Bodies tag team sets, $20 off. And the Big Daddy, the Grandpappy, the Midnight Express 4-pack collector's set with book and photo and certificate of authenticity, $40 off for the holiday season, and some more things that I'm going to be talking about next week, both new and on sale at JimCornette.com Saturday, October 11th.
All right, well, why don't we talk about...
Well, you sound thrilled.
Why don't we talk about Saturday, September 20th?
Now I'm kind of sour.
You know, knowing that wrestling starts early that day, I mean, I'm assuming you watched a lot of it live, just knowing that we had to turn it around and do it today. But knowing it starts at like 3, you know, I don't know, it's just you adjust your day differently when the event starts in the middle of the day as opposed to, 7 or 8 o'clock.
Well, many people, I understand, take days off from work, but I'm always, as you are, running the empire in some way, shape, or form, but I can't sleep late anymore. So I was still up out of bed at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. So there was paperwork I had to do and things that I had to accomplish around the house, but it wasn't so much the idea it was starting early, because I'd rather it start early, get it over with, because I can't stay up till fucking 11 o'clock at night. It just that I wasn't looking forward to the length of both programs and then turning around the very next morning and having to discuss it at length again. But that's our job as reporters. We've got to, we're not really reporters. We don't talk about the news when it breaks. We then use our expertise to critique it and discuss it in a learned fashion after the fact.
Of course, it's really your expertise. It's my foolishness.
Well, some of the tomfoolery comes from you, but every once in a while I can fool with Tom. But at 3 o'clock, you're right. I was going to watch the AEW program because at least I'm wasting time if I'm not watching something that's going on, right? At least we have the power of pause so I can go and relieve myself during the various issues. And I start watching that thing, but by 6 o'clock, I know that the WWE show is going to start at 7. And I got to eat something. I didn't want to fucking Well, like Morty Seinfeld, force feed myself a fucking steak at 4:00 in the afternoon. So I stop watching the AEW show at 6:00 so that I have time to eat something real quick, because I'm not going to not watch Cena and Lesnar live at 7:00 for whatever tomfoolery is still happening in AEW. And then by the time I get into the WWE show, I don't want to leave that, because at least nobody's being set on fire. But then by the time that I see the mixed tag, which is what I was really there for, it's fucking going on 10:00 and daddy needs to go to bed. So then I got up this morning.
Once again, Cody Rhodes is an afterthought.
Well, I'm sorry, but the mixed tag, and we'll talk about it, should have gone on last. That's what everybody wanted to see. And so then I got up this morning and caught up on everything else. Yeah.
Well, why don't we start with what started at 3 p.m.? Of course, we didn't have access to whatever 0 hour there was on Amazon Prime, but AEW All Out 2025 from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Well, they had a big crowd. The big set covered some of the big seats that they didn't big sell, but they still had a big crowd. What did we hear? Did they have 12 or 13,000, I believe?
I could check.
Was what they were expecting.
Yeah, look good.
But here's the thing now, what it is it's a, did you notice by the match order, it's a battle of the stars with seniority and pull as to how early you get to go on. Because they started with Edge and Christian. And you know Edge and Christian are like, my God, we're in Toronto. It's our first time back as a team. We're going to go out and have a tag team wrestling match with these guys. We can't let them burn the fucking people out and do everything and more that we're still physically capable of doing, and with weapons. So put us on first, Tony. It'll be a great way to start the show. Perfect. It was perfect. That was a perfect way to get them in there, they were over as the hometown heroes. They're legitimate stars. Get them the maximum pop they can. Let those people have fun there. And then they have a tag team match and they get the fuck out of there before people begin being set on fucking fire. But then,
to be fair, that was in the back, not in front of the fans.
Well, no, just in front of the fans, people are only sliced open from asshole to appetite and stuffed into fucking bags.
Yes.
Or thrown through furniture.
I think that's
or flung off the fucking balcony. And then, of course, MJF in the past has been the master of that, because if you notice, except for when it was a world title match and it was him and Danielson, him and Punk, it was gonna be the best thing they'd see and it was gonna be memorable. He'd be on first so he could have a match with some psychology with a crowd that hasn't been seen, several attempted murders and people being bleached and whatever. And then there's the Hurt Syndicate, who they've also got some pull and they're stars. And we're going to go out here and fucking halfway wrestle. And we don't want to be out there after the fucking trampoline cowboys get started. So now the only match of the first 4 or 5 that was really any kind of a stinker, because it involved stars that halfway knew what they were doing, even with this shitty booking, was Kingston, who they had to stick in the middle because they couldn't put that on later. Everybody knew that. But it's a brawl amongst the top guys to see who can get out of there before the people have seen every kind of goddamn damage that can be done to a human body. Anyhow, let's start with Edge and Christian and FTR. Is it the first time they have been a team in Toronto in 24 years? When did Christian leave
for TNA?
The WWE? For TNA, yes.
Was that 2005, 2006, 2007, somewhere in there?
Did they? were they burying him at that point? They split him up. They were mad at each other. 24 years seems long.
Well, they weren't together when he left. He was doing stuff with Tyson Tomko at that point in time. It was actually the most entertaining I found him in WWE, and then he was gone, and he got a big push in TNA as a world champion.
And so did Tomko, and then he was gone. Well, nevertheless, point being, it's the first time in 24 years, and that does both make it historic and make them sound even older than I thought they were. But what was the deal? Tell me before we get to the match, what was the deal where they were walking into the arena, Edge and Christian, and their greet, I got that they were a famous hockey player was there and said hello, and he got a little bit of a pop from the people. But then who was the weird, they come up on a weird guy wearing glasses and they called him Bubbles.
Bubbles, yeah.
And they're talking back and forth. I don't know what the fuck he's saying. The gentleman is challenged in some fashion.
Oh, no, not Bubbles, no.
And then they look the other way, and I swear to God, it was the same guy, right? But he's dressed in a costume as the Green Bastard. Is this some kind of goddamn goofy Attitude Era angle that they did, and they found this guy 30 years later? And what the fuck is this?
Bubbles is a character played by that guy who looks remarkably the same as he looked 15 years ago on the Trailer Park Boys, which is one of the funniest comedies of all time. And it's Canadian. So it's a popular Canadian comedy series, I guess is the word I should add there. But it's a great series, at least when Jim Leahy was there. And Bubbles on the show at one point loves wrestling, so they set up a little makeshift ring in the trailer park, and he becomes the Green Bastard.
Oh, Christ on a cracker.
On a cracker?
Well, so they got some advice, I guess, from the Green Bastard. And then they played the music, and then here came Edge.
By the way, not the only Green Bastard in AEW.
No, good catch there. We should be specific. The Green Bastard that is Bubbles with a mask on. But they played the music. Here comes Edge, and I was like, great pop and great entrance, and they've just looked like idiots doing scripted verbiage with some fellow. But they sang his song. And it wasn't as enthusiastic at first, but then it picked up at the end.
At one point, it was so passionless. I was like, what the hell is going on? It's like dry and like this feels like almost they're being forced to do this.
Well, but remember, they're in Canada. So that kind of, for a lot of Canadian folks, that's being just wacky, fucking demonstrative, like crazy on acid on the streets of San Francisco. If you're actually singing with a loud voice in public.
I liked it better when you didn't feel forced to sing at wrestling. I liked it better when you could just stand in the back and...
You better sing? You better sing your hearts out?
Oh my God, dance. In some places you got to dance too. If you go to France, you got to dance.
You're going to dance in France, you little bastards. And then, of course, they played Cage's music, and the people chanted, "He's my asshole," because earlier when they were walking in the back with the Bubbles and the hockey guy, Bubbles and the hockey guy, sounds like a pilot from the 70s. The Edge said, well, he may be an asshole, but he's my asshole. And so they're over. The people want to see him. It's the hometown. FTR music, mild booing. I think they've completely just wrung whatever interest that people had at one time in these poor fellows out of it. And Stokely was wearing some kind of stylish hazmat suit. I don't know what that, I thought maybe they were going to fucking fill him up with helium and float him like a blimp over the fucking ring. But did you hear Tony Schiavone's opening comment at or near the bell?
I'm not sure. I mean, Tony Schiavone had various stupid comments about how great it was or how happy he was to be there, or how this is what AEW is all about.
They ring the bell and they're squaring off, and Tony said, I don't know if we've ever called a match with so much. And he can't think of the word. And there's dead air. And then Sockface jumped in and started talking to Danielson. Like, well, Brian, what do you think about that? He couldn't come up with so much emotion, so much enmity, so much goddamn rivalry and passion behind whatever so much.
Somehow the commentary got worse with Danielson. And part of the problem too now is Danielson, because obviously he knows what the booking is. Danielson's screaming things, and then when he stops, no one else has that energy, not the crowd or Excalibur. He's just like, this is amazing, I can't believe it. Tony Schiavone, what do you think about they just move on. Well, everyone has a different energy, and it's not working.
Tony, at his age, if he tried that energy, he'd have a stroke. And Sockface can't just yell back at him, but then it's just constant screaming. And Danielson, yes, he's so excited, but also he doesn't do sound bites. He does analyses that sometimes take a while.
And then they laugh. Whenever anything bad happens, especially in front of them, you hear them laugh, and then one laughing gets the other one to laugh. So now the commentators are laughing at something that really should hurt. The whole thing is a mess. The whole thing is a mess.
Well, but having said that now, let's get back to the match, because the whole thing wasn't, the match was not a mess. The matches come later, but they worked a smart match because FTR know how to have a tag team match, and they were the ping pong balls for Christian and Edge, who know how to have a match and also are, obviously picking their spots at their age and stage of the game. And Cash and Edge did a great wrestling spot. Dax was ping-ponging for the guys. At one point, FTR did a blind tag to cut Christian off, but if anybody wants to go back and look at an example of how you actually could and should do a blind tag, but it's too small. The fans didn't see it. They were bunched up in the corner when he slapped him. They should have gone, reached behind, hand to hand, where the fans could see it, then they would have got it. But the blind tag was too small. They got some heat on Christian and worked switches around the fact that they were keeping Christian in a chin lock because they needed to conserve energy. And then, boom, Christian foiled Cash's splash and got the hot tag, and Edge made a nice comeback. Did a little "you can't see me," which woke the fans up. And then the fans started chanting, Cena, Cena. Like, oh. But they came to see Edge and Christian do stuff. They didn't really come to see this hot match or FTR get beat up or whatever. When FTR's getting the heat, they were just kind of like waiting for Edge and Christian to do something. And then finally FTR hit their suplex splash combination and got a 2 count. Boom. And Edge and Christian foiled the shatter machine, and Edge had a cover, and the referee goes down, and Stokely pulls the referee to the floor, which, again, has been done a lot here in modern times, but let's not nitpick. But then suddenly the music plays, and it's Beth Phoenix, and she runs down the fucking entranceway and spears Stokely on the floor. And the people are, yeah, holy shit. And Edge spears Dax, boom, and covers him 1, 2, 2 count. What the fuck? Then Beth carried Stokely out of the arena, and the match continues. Christian got powerbombed on the announce desk. Then Edge got hit with the ring bell. And then after they hit him with the ring bell, they gave him a spike pile driver. 1, 2, 2 count. What the fuck? They had it. They had it and they won't stop. Edge stopped both FTR, but then just ran into a shatter machine. 2 count. Oh, for God's sake. Then they did a second shatter machine to Edge, but no cover. There was an awkward moment where I can only presume something was supposed to happen, or because Cash then just suddenly ran over to be tripped by Christian all the way across the ring, and Edge speared Cash 1, 2, 3. Or Dax ran over to be. So, I don't know what the fuck, but they had it. They'd done all their false finishes. They'd done this shit, the big suplex splash, blah, blah, blah. Here comes Beth, spears fucking Stokely. Edge hits his spear. The people were there, 2 count, and then they go through all this shit. And it was awkward to begin with. But they can't quit. But it was close to a tag team wrestling match for AEW, didn't you think?
I thought it was going to be a great match, thinking about it in advance. I don't think it was great, but it was really good. It was a fine opener. Up until the finish, maybe a little bit before the finish, but up until the finish, and then, to me, it just went off the rails.
Yeah.
Especially in front of that crowd in Toronto. Who at times was the quietest Toronto crowd I've ever heard.
Well, later on, you could take a nap every once in a while in the middle of a match because they were waiting to see what looked like somebody got hurt. Because that's what gets the biggest, not somebody winning or somebody, that we love, but the biggest reactions come from that looked like somebody got hurt. But anyway, nevertheless, we're not done. No, it's only the opening match on a fucking pay-per-view. We've got to have an angle here. So suddenly they play more music. And here comes old Mama Wayne, wheeling Nick Plain out in a wheelchair on the stage. And this distraction led to FTR to be able to jump Edge and Christian from behind and Pip Sabian to come from somewhere and handcuff Edge to the ropes. While FTR spike pile drive Christian Cage. But here comes Beth back out trying to get Edge loose from the goddamn deal. And FTR starts menacing her, like standing over her. So she looks at Edge and tells him, "I love you," and kisses him, and then turns around and starts swinging away at FTR. And now okay. Dusty had his moments where he would recreate scenes from John Wayne movies too. So, and she starts swinging at FTR, but they grab her, and to contain her, so she's not a danger to herself or others, they give her a spike pile driver. And then FTR leaves, and the doctor is checking on Beth, and nobody was getting Edge loose until finally they got the bolt cutters. And I'm not sure where Christian went in all of that. Are you? Do you remember?
Well, he was the first one laid out.
Well, but nobody ever stays laid out for long.
I don't know. I hadn't thought of it, actually. I hate to say it. I hadn't thought of where did Christian go.
I'm trying to look at my notes. What happened to him? They beat him up some kind of way and threw him out. Well, he's not the most courageous son of a gun in the world anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what...
I'm taking a sip.
I thought it was just awkward pause because it was kind of deserved because of this post-match. The whole thing where Beth has music and she runs out there and it's just, it's just Beth because obviously you can't call her Beth Phoenix. WWE owns that. And she comes out there.
Well, I just called her Beth Phoenix because...
Well, you can.
Because I knew her back when.
But then, now you have Like girls beating up guys on both shows. And now you have girls getting spike pile drivers on the show. It seems like a big jump. It seems like a bit much, especially to heat up this. I don't think the FTR heel run right now is really clicking with people, despite them trying to heat it up. I don't think it's working or clicking at all. And I think the fans kind of, and we've seen it. I mean, they set it up into being part of their thing, but the fans are almost like mocking them. And it's a weird way of booking top heels if any of this is intentional. But I was hoping this would end tonight, but maybe I was naive thinking that, but I was hoping everyone would kind of move on after tonight.
Well,
or last night.
But now here's the thing is that I like Beth Phoenix, and I think that she's a good talent that I don't know whether she's wanting or whether this was a one-time thing or setting up some kind of mixed tag or, she's not getting back into business, whatever the fuck. But
yeah, they should have had her out there to confront Stokely before Edge beat him up.
Well, the point being, that's what I'm saying is they picked this time to do that, maybe because it was in Toronto and it just because, they live in Asheville, North Carolina, though. But they've done it the same week as the biggest mixed tag team match and the biggest husband and wife reunion in fucking wrestling history. And so it comes off, even though Edge and Beth are both stars and talents, it comes off again like maybe it's just their rotten timing. Maybe they plan to do it this time all along, but it comes off like, oh, well, we got a fucking couple rather than a big deal. And for it to mean really anything besides a pop for the people in the building in Toronto, that Beth comes out and carries Stokely off and gets pile driven, is if in any way Stokely had any fucking heat. And that's the problem is this just comes off like they're copying the what the big company is doing. And when's the last time that the WWE made a particularly big deal about a husband and wife combination? Since Triple H and Stephanie or whatever. So it just had to be this time. It makes it look like Herd's WCW with ding dongs trying to copy Vince's, 80s ice cream bar era.
But again, they had Beth Phoenix come out there to make the big save. And then the debut in AEW, I guess. First appearance in AEW. And then immediately she gets laid out. So I don't know about the whole thing.
Well, yeah. Unless she's just not, it was a cameo, whatever. Okay. Eddie Kingston returns after over a year. Bless his little pea-pigging heart. He got a nice pop. He got some Eddie chants. Remember when they announced this match? Why would they do this? Why would they not only have Eddie Kingston in his return booked against Big Bill, not only for the result, really, but for the match? And it was everything that a babyface return shouldn't be. He got the teetotal shit beat out of him the whole time. Now, he's had 16 months to diet and train. And is his belly a little smaller than it was, Brian? But is he a little paler to make up for it?
I thought he looked good when he had the shirt on, when he had the Claudio Sucks Egg shirt. I'm like, oh, he looks like he's lost weight. And then when he took the shirt off, I'm like, well, maybe. I can't really tell.
Well, and the thing is,
the fans are really happy to see him, though. He's the guy.
Yes.
He's one of these guys the fans chose, and the push never went to the place the fans wanted it to go.
And that's why this was the wrong opponent. The people wanted to see Eddie Kingston come back after this horrific injury, do his shit against somebody that'll give him a little workout and win in 8 or 10 minutes so they can feel good. And you're preparing for the future. Because if you do that, 2 or 3 times over the period of a month or two. Then Big Bill could have come out and said, why is Eddie Kingston getting all this time when all he does is beat these fucking nobodies? He wouldn't last 5 minutes with me. Oh, Kingston, come out. You want to bet? And here we go. Something. But instead, his first time back in a year and a half, you have a giant that makes him look even more physically like shit, beat the shit out of him over and over, in the goddamn, and sell nothing practically, which he shouldn't because he's a giant. But then they did the deal where in the backhand is Kingston's finish, right? The spinning backhand, which again is stupid, and you can see he's got his hand open.
This part, yeah.
But Big Bill foiled the backhand and barely hit a Bubba Slam on Kingston. After when Kingston was he made a comeback. It wasn't a good comeback, but he made a comeback. And then Big Bill stopped him again, barely got the Bubba Slam. He was spun him like 2 feet off the ground because they got their balance off. And then another one that wasn't much better, and it made it dull because once Kingston made his comeback, they should have just gone. But now he stopped him again. Then Kingston hits a DDT and hit his back fist that should have been it again. It should have been it. 1 count. What the fuck? So then Kingston runs into a boot, but Big Bill misses a charge in the corner. Kingston schoolboys him and gets a 2 count. And then Kingston gets up and his Big Bill is still halfway down on his knees. He swung the back fist and missed it. And Tony Schiavone said, oh, I missed it. And I think even Excalibur said, glancing blow. And Big Bill just crumpled and he covered him 1, 2, 3. And then they jumped in saying, oh, I guess he hit him a glancing blow on the temple. God damn it. I've never seen a guy win a match and it make him look more like shit.
You know,
I'm just going the first back fist, boom, down 1, 2, 3. That's the finish. That's his finish. Comes out of nowhere. If they'd have done that, it'd have been all right. But the fucking whiffing the goddamn knockout blow on a 7-foot man put it over the top of the bottom. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know, when he first came out there, I'm like, yeah, Eddie Kingston. Everyone's into him. Good to see him back. First thing he did, I think, was like laying a chop. And I'm like, oh no, I forgot about his, like, what he's into, which is like his tribute to All Japan in the 90s. And I didn't think this was very good. And then the finish was pretty embarrassing. I mean, the fact that he missed it and then they just still went to the finish, they still went to the pin. It looks so bad.
But do you see what I'm saying? They just rushed everything. All they had to do was bring Kingston back and show the people that he was still able to walk with all of his fucking surgeries and have him beat somebody with his back fist, and they'd been happy. And it also reminds people about his back fist that he hasn't done in a year and a fucking half. And then do it again 2 or 3 weeks later. And maybe even again. Go crazy. Just to let people know and remind them. And then you have the big fucking giant have the issue if you want to, because then you've established something instead of bringing the guy a baby face back so that he can get the shit kicked out of him and then whiff his finish and then get the shit kicked out of him by Brian Keith and old Bill until the hook sign came out.
Oh, to no reaction whatsoever. Did you hear the reaction when they hit the music and played or flashed the light? No reaction.
I didn't. No, I didn't hear the reaction. That's the point. And the giant bails from the child, Hook, and they beat up Brian Keith. And Kingston hugs Hook. So, you know, they live in the same tenement in New York, I understand. Over there in Where was it that Brooklyn Heights, where Patty's only seen the sights? That's probably where they live.
A hot dog makes her lose control?
Yes. Well, one of these hot dogs looks like Kingston ate all the hot dogs.
That's not nice, and that's your review of the Eddie Kingston Big Bill match.
Yes, it was. All right, now after we got that interlude out of the way, the next star that wanted to get on early and get the fuck out of there before anybody got set on fire was MJF. So now we get the table and thumbtacks match between MJF and Mark Briscoe. I mean, any longtime listener of the program will know that this is, in my opinion, the stupidest thing that they've ever done in wrestling is the thumbtacks, which is just ridiculous and just low rent and stupid and silly and childish and juvenile. All the other synonyms that might apply to those words. But if you've got Moxley, I mean, he can do that as well as he can do anything else. Moxley's the shits in the ring as a professional wrestler, as a worker, both psychology and physically. He's suited for the garbage shit. But both of these guys are two of the better in-ring performers on the roster in this company. Mark Briscoe, because he can have good matches with people that know how to work. He just has he's fallen into the habit of doing the hardcore stuff because they think because he came from Sandy Fork and Ring of Honor and that type of thing, that's all he can do. He can actually have matches with people that can work. He just doesn't get too often. But MJF, as we've seen, psychology-wise, can put a main event match together. He's a smart kid. So to have both of them tied up in something that any garbage wrestler can do, it makes the show look more indie and outlaw and mud show. You could have a good match with these guys if you didn't ruin the ring by dumping 2 buckets of thumbtacks in it before the match starts. And still, MJF understood and he tried to milk the idea of them falling and rolling around in the tacks and etc. and get as much mileage out of it as possible. But again, you know that Mark Briscoe, because he's not going to say no when people ask him to do something or paying him this much money, and he's done it for far less. And MJF at some point has to goddamn humor this fucking special fellow that he works for and pays him all that money and indulge him in his indie-minded goddamn outlaw wrestling fantasies. So we end up with this. And, you know, again, it's so embarrassing. Two of them, and I made notes on, and by the way, MJF was smart enough to wear big old thick white gloves. Even though they both got their shirts torn off and were rolling around in the shit, at least MJF had the gloves on. But I made notes, but why? MJF put tacks in Briscoe's mouth and backdropped him in the tacks, and then MJF took a backdrop in the tacks, and then a spine buster in the tacks. And then I wrote, Briscoe hit a dive and pulled a table out and got a chair, broke 2 tables, more bumps in the tacks. Then they pulled out a chair covered in tacks. Then MJF tombstoned him on the chair with the tacks, 2 count. And then he pulled out another table and poured 2 bags of tacks on the table. And they had a fight on the top, which was somewhat lengthy and contrived until Briscoe elbow dropped MJF through the table. And after he came off the top rope with an elbow drop to put MJF through the table that was covered with tacks, he didn't cover him. He went up to the top again and dropped another elbow drop on him. And then he picked him up. God damn it. And then he picked him up and hit a J Driller in honor of his brother on the corpse, the lifeless corpse of what was once MJF. 1, 2, 3. Surprisingly enough. It just, I know they're getting paid a lot of money, but at some point you would think that somebody would be able to say to Tony, just know what the fuck is the matter with you? Just because we did this shit at one point when we had to work in fucking rec centers doesn't mean that we can actually do this shit for real. We don't have to do this like the other clowns that you pay a lot of money to. We can do the shit we're supposed to be doing. Anyway, low rent, one of both guys' worst matches ever because of the stupidity factor, even though MJF did try to put some logic in it. But I mean, tell me what I missed about this masterpiece.
Well, again, not my favorite kind of match. At first, I thought MJF was going to tease the whole match that he would take a bump and not take any until the very end.
And then that would be the big bump in the tax, and then here's your finish, boom.
But obviously, they were going for the gore aspect. Well, minimal gore compared to other things on the show now that I think about it.
Well, but then you've got the visual of the thumbtack sticking in Briscoe's bald head and in both of their backs and their arm. It's so stupid.
And Briscoe gets the win.
It's jackass. It's jackass.
And MJF loses. I don't know if that hurts him. I don't know if anything hurts him or helps him right now.
No.
But, Briscoe, who lost nonstop, got a big win to end the feud. Hopefully, thankfully. Better be. And they teased already. I don't know. Do you want to talk about the promo? Or did you see the promo that he did later on?
Well, let me just say that to respond to what you said, no, it's about time Mark Briscoe wins a big one. It was not about time. It's been a long, long past time. I'm not disputing the finish. I'm disputing the guy biting the head off a fucking chicken level match they had to have to get there because these people's minds are in the indie gutter. But the promo, tell me what you're saying here.
They did a promo with the other members of the conglomeration. I think it was Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and there was another person. Hologram.
I can guarantee you I didn't see it.
And Hologram, and the whole time Kyle's on the phone and Mark Briscoe's giving a big fired up promo that the conglomeration is back. He's got his big win. Harley Cameron really hamming it up. And then they reveal that the friend that they asked to be part of the big match against the Don Callis family on Wednesday, his answer was, whatever. So they're teasing the big comeback of your favorite wrestler of 2019, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, thankfully I had forgotten about him. I thought he just went away by popular demand. What?
They're bringing back all the greatest hits of the first year. They're trying to do everything they can to get back all the people that, when they still had a spirit, they were there. But
the thing is the people they had in the first year is the reason why they lost half of the people that they had in the first year until now, because the people, they didn't like those people. Not they're longing to see them come back. They want fewer of them, not more. Anyhow, so then we were ready for the 6-man tag team match with the Hurt Syndicate and Ricochet and the Drek twins, Bishop Khan and Tia Leone. And I don't mind Bishop Khan now. Tia Leone is hopeless, but I don't mind Bishop Khan. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Do you agree with me? Did you pay enough attention to notice that Bishop Khan can actually do some shit, whereas Leone is a lost ball in high weeds?
I mean, I've seen them before. I'm not really surprised by what any of them can do or not do.
Well, they kept, and it could be under the pretext of, well, you're the big guy, so we want you to stay out and you only come in every once in a while. But I think they kept him after Wednesday night. They kept old Tia Leone out on the apron as much as possible. But Bishop Khan can move around, and MVP looked good. MVP did more wrestling again than normal because he's not only a legitimate ex-wrestler, but also a babyface manager. So he's not going to work like the manager. That was the Ricochet spot where they kept trying to tease MVP wanting Ricochet and Ricochet not wanting any of it. And also because he's the little fellow in this thing. So that was the point of the match, but they put together a match that was very well laid out, I thought. It's just that the heel team is too green and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Ricochet bounces for the big guys, and so does Bishop Khan. And at one point, MVP was beating up Ricochet, and his two partners were just standing on the floor, leaning on the apron, watching it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I don't know if they were lost or trying to figure out what their next spot was. But then when the heels stopped MVP and started working his bad leg, the fans didn't want to see MVP sell, but the heels aren't any good at getting heat. That's where, again, as I said, they laid out a good match, but they did an not an awkward spot, but an awkward rendition of a spot on the floor to prevent the tag. And then MVP just tagged Lashley. The heels couldn't set it up. They didn't have it. And then Lashley made a comeback and killed Ricochet. And Leone came in with the save, and he and Lashley just looked at each other and then turned away and started doing different shit. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what in the world is supposed to be happening? So then Shelton threw Ricochet everywhere, and then he threw Bishop Khan everywhere, and then he Germaned both of them, got a big pop. And Lashley hit the spear on a couple of them. And MVP and one of the other guys was slugging it out, and I'm like, they need to go. It's good now, but it seems like everybody just, has to hang on a little longer. Tia Leone hit Lashley with a chair, and everybody took a big bump on the floor, and Ricochet did a dive, and the referee was Aubrey Ed, so she wasn't counting or doing anything except standing there, with her cud being chewed. And then the big Samoan Leone took out Shelton and Lashley, but Ricochet and Bishop beat up MVP. And some way or another, I forgot. I don't think I've written down the finish here. I guess I didn't write it down. I wrote down Khan needs to be a single or find a new partner. Leone is rotten and has the charisma of mud.
I think it's Leone.
Oh, they beat MVP there somehow with something. I don't know.
I was going to say, it's a weird situation when MVP is the Ricky Morton of the team. Like the guy doing all the selling and needs the tag. It's a weird thing. Obviously, the Hurt Syndicate want to work with these guys, and they're going to try to make these guys to the best of their ability. And it was, like you said, a well laid out match.
Yes. Unfortunately, the heels laid an egg.
Yeah.
I mean, Again, there's no other tag teams of grown men in this company that wouldn't be a joke to put in the ring with Lashley and Benjamin, and the people love Lashley and Benjamin. But so the fucking manager has to come in and drop the fall to try to get somebody over. Anywho, you know what was next, don't you, Brian?
I don't remember, actually.
It was Mercedes Moon versus Riho.
I remember. Did I lose you?
Now, see, at some point, I got to breathe, but I want to see how long I could do that. That's pretty goddamn amazing, wasn't it? I'm a little dizzy.
I don't know what just happened.
Oh, all right. Anyway, quit. That's only he's saying no, thank you. That's what he's saying. No arigato. So what in the world was the Mercedes now thinks she's the female Flair, and in no way, shape, or form is she. But instead of coming out with 8 models, she comes out with 8 male twinks from some type of online service wearing her women's title belts from the various outlaw promotions. That was interesting. This was in no way a serious segment deserving of our attention and or potential critique of or even making fun of, is it? Brian, at this point, have we not determined that there's no sense in just going over the same old shit with this thing?
I think people would love to hear you break this down. I mean, obviously, it's a evenly matched matchup. The women were about the same size, it seemed like.
Yeah.
The tail of the tape? I mean, anything you want to say at all about this?
Well, I'll tell you what I can say. They gave it fucking 15 minutes plus entrances on what's supposed to be a legitimate professional broadcast. I can say that. I can say that, the joke is long past over. That now that Kenny's not even here all the time, that his fascination with these low-level outlaw apartment wrestling girl groups, and the reason why that it is so embarrassing that a national television wrestling promotion for the past 5 years in any country has pulled talent, and I use that in quotation marks, from these fringe do-it-yourself, hey kids, let's put on a show organizations in Japan just to satisfy him, and still they're 6 years in, and they have Riho as a baby face that should actually, on a major event, challenge. Even though Mercedes is a shits too, she's some kind of goddamn star, and she's making millions of dollars. Isn't that like a record company signing up Taylor Swift and having her put out a duet album with his brother-in-law?
It's like a record company signing a band and saying, you know what, we're going to eat the advance and give you a whole bunch of more money. Do what you want.
So no, I can't sit there and watch this like I've been in wrestling for 50 fucking years. Like something seriously professional is being presented to me. I cannot act this way. I cannot dignify this at this point. When they get serious with Mercedes and find somebody to kick her ass, take a few of those belts away, I might watch that. But no, seriously. Again, Mercedes grabbed the referee and distracted her long enough to rake Riho's eyes And she hit a big move on old Rio that looked good. Mercedes did. Picked her up and dropped her, boom, on her knees. Didn't cover her. Picked her up and hit her shitty finish where they start out with the girl on her back and she turns around and they fall in a heap. 1, 2, 3. And I can't believe she actually did a good looking move and then wasted it. And that was the whole idea of that's, again, I know they're not smart enough, but I would think there's people there that could explain it to them if they were willing to listen. Why did she rake the babyface's eyes, Brian? In that situation when the babyface was about to beat her and she grabbed the referee to distract her and raked the babyface's eyes where he couldn't see it. Why did she do that?
To get an advantage over the babyface.
Yeah, because she was desperate. And she knew right then she had to cheat and she didn't want to get caught cheating. That's a good spot. And the reason why she was desperate was because she knew and wanted the fans to know in the working universe that she was beaten if she didn't do something desperate and cheat, because that gives the babyface the out when the babyface is about to get fucked. And then once you rake the eyes, and that's the fucking difference maker, and then you grab the opponent and hit him with the goddamn big move, if you don't cover him on that, then your goddamn clock resets. Now you're no longer desperate. Now the babyface no longer has a goddamn out, because now you just pick the babyface up and fucking give him another move. Now you're in control, and the babyface, their out expired because it was all the momentum of what the people are seeing and how they subliminally react to it. Now you just made it flat because you're stupid. That's what I thought about that match. What do you think?
Big win for Mercedes Moné and her band of Twink title holders. Another victory. She does not lose the belt. And Swami's barking because obviously it was a dog of a match, ladies and gentlemen. But Riho just returned. She has lost. We'll see if she disappears and maybe Hikaru Shida or some other challenger from the Kenny Omega Rolodex can show up and challenge Mercedes Moné. This has been Brian Last and Swami for Jim Didn't Like It News. All right, you know what that means. The Riho match is over. Jim, there was more All Out.
Please stand up and in single file calmly leave the auditorium. No, there was more. There was plenty more. Next up was for the unified title, as opposed to any of the other titles. This was a three-way between Mascara, Dorito, Oblada, and our boy Take. And I'm sorry, again, we got a long road to hoe here, as Mama Cornette used to say. You got the laziest wrestler in the world. You got a 160-pound generic masked guy. And again, poor Take, who had all the potential in the world and was the best athlete and the cheapest salary of all of the Japanese imports. And he just flounders around and stares at people. He's in a heel group that he is mad at the other guy in the same heel group, or he stares at him a lot. He never speaks, but his manager never really speaks for him. He just stands around in the assemblage of various guys. So why do we care? And this title is not in any way, who gives a shit? It's just something because Tony's a mark for Oblada, the world's laziest human being. So why are we going to watch 20 minutes of contrived gymnastics What is the purpose that we would want to see this fucking match? It took forever on Fast Forward.
In case Takeshita finally gets fed up with these heel ways of Okada, that was really the only thing they teased.
And that's...
and Danielson yelled at us about how great the Mascara Dorada victory over Beast Mortos was on Wednesday.
It was sublime, is what it was. But after 20 minutes or so, they started just standing in a fucking three-way circle and forearming each other. And finally, Okada beat Dorito with that shitty little clothesline he does. At least the little guys can take a good bump for it. And nothing was accomplished. I would be, if I was Tony and I had access to this kind of legal advice, I would be looking into loopholes in Okada's contract so that I could free up several $1 million to hire somebody that gives a shit, and then anybody would give a shit about him. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. You get some talent that you have to pay a lot of money for. Do you just say, I'm going to get my money's worth to the best of my ability one way or another and use them on top? Or do you consider it a sunk cost? All right, I got to pay this guy, but he's going to sit on the bench.
Well, he don't care about sending other people home for 1.5 years. And not even, they don't even have to be hurt.
That's a very good point.
They don't have to be hurt. Just after Perry fucked his whole company up, he just said, go away until I want to talk to you again. And I'm sure all these people are paid regularly. And so I don't really, but I'm amazed that you take up the time with, anyway.
When he first got to AEW, I thought you were being too hard on Okada because I had seen him in New Japan at his peak, which was like the last period of time I really cared about New Japan. And the more I would watch him, like, well, this wasn't the night for him, or, okay, there wasn't anything great there. And the more you talked about it, and the more I started watching him, he really, I don't like watching his matches. No, like you said, nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, it's like a hot 90 seconds at the end, maybe less. And he gets a victory and wins.
Every time he can save a step, every time he can go down a little easier, every time he can roll to the floor. And there's the only facial expressions are goofy fake ones. And the slump-shouldered, awkward, flat-footed way of moving around is he's David Flair in the ring. And so there's their problem is because the ones who defend this and or Tony's smoking the hopium, the wishful seeing, whatever that they're doing, maybe he was great. Even though he was great in Japan, he can't fucking speak and he has no personality, so he's only going to go so far over here. But even if he was great in Japan, they are assuming that everybody saw him in Japan. And here's the guy over here that's looking at what they're presenting now, just like all the people that on their TV show that didn't exist before 5 or 6 years ago, that had never seen Okada until whenever he came in here a couple of years ago. That's what they're seeing is what I'm seeing. What the fuck? That's what they don't get. The people that already were seeing him are seeing a memory if they're still blind to this. But everybody else is seeing, what the fuck, this fucking guy? And then you also ruin your credibility when you talk about he's the greatest tournament wrestler of all time. This fucking guy?
Yeah, by the way, before him, I don't remember anyone ever being called that on American Wrestling TV. There was no previous greatest tournament wrestler of all time.
Well, because it means nothing anyway, except to people who are wrapped up in Japanese wrestling.
And then you ask yourself a question right away, is this a tournament? Oh, no, it's not. So it really doesn't even apply to this specific match in any way.
It's just Yeah,
Nah,
it's a factoid about the fellow that's in it. Anywho, you want to get to the first big one, Brian? We got to get to the first big one now because this set new standards. The Coffin match between Darby Allin and Dick the Boozer. Something's the matter with a lot of these people, is all you can say. As soon as here comes Boozer and Schaefer entering through the arena, and in the back of the building, Darby jumps them in the aisleway, in the middle of the people. And he's swinging a garbage can around. And then he runs up to the balcony and gives him a coffin drop off the balcony. And the people for a second go, holy shit, holy shit. And then they quiet down and it's complete silence while they're having an endless fight in the arena on stairs, in the cheap seats and down on that you can barely see. The camera can't catch it. It's not that quick of a pace. Every once in a while, they'll see somebody fall and they'll pop. And then they just fight walked. What would that be, Brian? Where they just hold on to each other and they walk with each other, and every 20 or 30 feet, they hit each other with a half-hearted punch or run somebody into a rail. Is that fight walking or walk fighting?
A chat and attack.
That'll work. And as they're going through, the people are laughing and they're taking their picture with their phones. And so then they go to ringside. And did you see on camera, the first good camera shot of the goddamn match was when they were climbing over the rail and Moxley was trying to get his blade out of his pocket and couldn't? Or were you paying close enough attention?
Actually, I did not see that specific shot, no.
If you go back when they fight through the building and they're coming over the rail at the ringside area into ringside, Moxley is sticking two fingers and his thumb down into his jeans pocket, trying to get his blade out, but he couldn't get it. He's fumbling. It's the announcers even said, "Oh, watch Moxley." They thought he was going to pull a screwdriver out or something. No, he wasn't. You weren't supposed to be looking at that. They called attention to it. So then, when they get over it, that's when Darby was biting him on the ear forever before they got up and he was bleeding.
Yeah, I was watching during that period of time, so I just missed it.
Okay. Well, apparently without the blade, because you see in the background of the lengthy bite, Marina Schaefer bends over and picks it up off the ground where they had been. But in the meantime, apparently he just told Darby, well, just bite my ear, because he came up bleeding. It took him forever. Or maybe Darby had a spare blade handy. But what an amateur fucking putz Moxley is. You can't put a blade in the pocket of your goddamn jeans and expect to be able to pull it out in the right fashion without anybody seeing it. Nevertheless, after the long stationary effort, Moxley's ear was bleeding. And then Moxley turned around. It took forever to set up the coffin, but then Darby dove on him so both of them could fall in it. And that's the thing. This was some stunt they would do, punctuated by everybody wandering around, selling around, or trying to set up props for the next trick. At one point, Marina Schaefer was undoing the turnbuckle with a wrench. It was like she was loosening the turnbuckle, like they were going to take the rope off. And you never saw anything else about it. Did you?
No, I don't think. As you say that, I am thinking about it. I remember her unscrewing it.
Why was she loosening the turnbuckle when nothing ever happened with taking the turnbuckle off?
I remember thinking, I wonder what she's going to do, and then nothing ever happened, but I forgot about it.
Did you also see that Claudio and Garcia and Yuta all came out and stood around while nothing was happening? And then he told them to leave. What did they do?
They didn't do anything. He just didn't want any help. The heel didn't want help from them.
But they didn't come out trying to help him. They just wandered out and stood around for a while. And then Schaefer walked off. And the crowd was quiet. But then they sang something lightly, but there was no action going on. But then Darby would pulled a fork out of the turnbuckle and stabbed Moxley like 15 times in the head, and there's more blood. And he got the coffin drop on the coffin end, so they broke the lid on their coffin. And then Darby again is stabbing Moxley in the ear with the fork. But Moxley gives Darby his finished double arm DDT on the coffin. And I'm thinking again, my God, this is September 20th. It's the head-to-head competition between WWE and AEW, their big shows, premium live event, pay-per-view, whatever. And it's like the difference between what you would see at Radio City Music Hall and what you'd see at the Pink Pussy Porn Theater. And just because Moxley, again, has these fucking fantasies that he's Nick Gage and all of his toothless glory, their show looks so goddamn low fucking rent. So then at ringside, Danielson on commentary pulls out a duffel bag and gives it to Darby, and Darby gets in a duffel bag and pulls out a plastic bag and puts the plastic bag over Moxley's head and starts stomping the shit out of him and puts him in the coffin, but he doesn't have the lid shut. When here comes Pac. Remember Pac? How long's Pac been gone?
Oh, it's got to be at least 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
Well, Pac's back. And his hair is shorter. And he comes in and kicks Darby right in front. The referee is not only, they put him in this position where not only he's staring at this and can't do anything about it because it's no disqualification, lazy booking, but he doesn't even have an upset face. He's not even in the moment where he's going, no, you don't belong here, you should leave, and waving his arms. He's just standing there watching this fucking shit go on. And that's why they can't register anything with people. There's no legitimate emotion being invested in this shit because it's so over the top and stupid on a visual level. People are just waiting for somebody else to do something that looks like it hurts. And so Pac power bombs Darby over the top rope onto the coffin on the floor, and then got a body bag and put Darby in the body bag, took his time, and then put Darby in the bag in the coffin, and Moxley kicked the lid shut, and the referee called for the bell, ding, ding, ding. And they think that that somehow was a good idea. Not only number one, Darby should have won, because my God, we've been inflicted with this fucking Moxley for so long, but get some babyface over. But not only that, but even if you were going to put the heel over, it gets no heat when it's all just done right there at the heel's leisure, with nobody trying to stop it and the referee standing dumbfounded and slack-jawed. So it was a rotten finish to a shitty match featuring the world's worst full-time pro wrestler. And then they all carried, the Boar Horseman came back and carried the coffin out of the arena. Oh, joy.
And the fans booed, and it wasn't the boo your heels. I think a lot of it is we don't like this Boar Horseman stuff, this Death Rider stuff. Even if you get the big return of Pac, and boy, how much charisma did he show, just standing there with his new haircut. But the baby faces get screwed over by Moxley, who is a heel that the fans are kind of sick of doing this, doing that. Even the fans that like Moxley, I don't know if they like him with this fucking all-star stable.
And it's bigger now. There's more of them.
Well, because now they have Daniel Garcia, and Pac is back.
Pac's back. So Pac, Garcia, Claudio, Useless, Schaefer, Boozer. There's 6 right there. Did I get them all?
I think so.
Jesus, it's the modern day NWO. Anywho,
Well, Jim.
yes.
Well, I was going to say, perhaps after a match like that, you have to think about all the different parties involved. And I don't just mean the 2 wrestlers who are banged up and bruised up and literally placed in body bags or coffins, but I mean the audience. That's a lot to witness, a lot to take in. You have to think about your health. You have to think about your sleep. You have to think about your mental well-being. And you know what? I think we have a friend that could help a lot of the listeners with at least something that I said, and I bet I know the man to tell them all about it.
Of the words that you said were English. That's what I was about to say, that is the point after the Coffin match there where I decided I had to eat and switch off this program so that I could replenish myself. And you know what you do after you eat, don't you, Brian? What I like to do after I eat is sleep. That's where I was going, but we got to the same place. And you know what makes you sleep and sleep well and sleep with the peace of mind and calm serenity that comes with a lack of stress and a good approach to your mental wellness? CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp. That's where we went, because I'll tell you what, folks.
Yeah.
Cornbread Hemp, right here in Louisville, Kentucky. They're taking, I've mentioned they're sponsoring all the various University of Louisville athletics now, the football, the basketball, the disc golf. They're all over the place. They're taking over the state of Kentucky because they have a fine quality product. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are made from the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. Now, for example, if you're stressed mentally, well, a CBD gummy every so often will make you feel right as rain. Let's say you're tossing and turning at night. You can't sleep, you can't relax. A CBD gummy would help you, just make you right as rain. And let's say you're experiencing discomfort, like I am right now. Normally, it would make you feel better, but for the discomfort I've got right now, they'd need to make them in suppository form. But folks, I'll tell you one thing. Nevertheless, you will not have a pain in the ass with how you can order these fine products, because all you got to do is go to cornbreadhemp.com, CORNBREAD, hemp.com/JCE, and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to save 30% on your very first order. The CBD gummies formulated to work with your body, not against it, so they will grab you in a headlock from the left-hand side. I'm telling you, folks, again, cornbreadhemp.com/JCE, 30% off your first order. How can you put a price on sleep and mental healthiness and wellness?
There is no price that is acceptable. However, there is a great deal for the listeners of this show when it comes to Cornbread Hemp.
Yes.
Yes.
You are correct.
And that promo code one more time.
Yes, that is. I was trying to make sure I didn't hang up on you. I hit the wrong button. That is cornbreadhemp.com/JCE, the promo code JCE, as it always is and always shall be.
All right, there we go. We can't move on without Taigada or Arigato, whatever it may be.
Mamito!
Right, you never heard anyone say Inoki. I used to love when he would yell, "Thank you," to the crowd. He was so humble.
You've been a wonderful audience.
But Jim, there is more. There are still three more matches on this AEW Spectacular, and the next one was for the AEW Women's World Championship.
Well, they just had that before, see? Mercedes has 9 women's world titles.
But not this one.
Well, sooner or later she will. Tony Storm versus Thekla versus Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter. And they've been teasing a past with Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm, and they had bad feelings in their dealings before. And at least, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know what the fuck they've done here, because Tony Storm is pretty much one would assume, the most popular female talent on the roster, certainly the star of the company on the female side, right? Can you think of, since they lost old Marilyn Monroe or Blake Edwards, whatever her fucking name is.
I think to their fans, she is by far the biggest female star in the company, by far.
So they just had Chris Statlander beat her right in the middle of 1, 2, 3 with a fucking roll up.
After getting advice from Wheeler Yuta. Right? You saw that part.
Yeah. The best part of it is that's like getting advice on goddamn finances from fucking Bernie Madoff. Hey, they were 3 hours into the show and they pop us in another girls 4-way. Number one, no thanks. I'm sorry, but we had a lot of wrestling to watch. But the deal was that I popped in for the finish. And as you mentioned, then there was the advice from old Wheeler. Like he's, related to the fucking Gracie family. But you would have thought, okay, Thekla is, and I'm not knocking Chris Statlander. She's had a ton of potential. Not really comfortable on promos yet, it doesn't seem like. But she's been there forever. If they were going to do something, time was before. Thekla's new. She's different. She's odd. Very aggressive. Hayter had an issue with Storm. Out of anybody that they're going to beat Tony Storm with, they make it Statlander at this point, and rolling her up with a little fucking snazzy little roll-up move. 1, 2, 3, new champion.
And seemingly rolling up Statlander into the universe of the Death Riders.
Well, they need somebody because they don't have enough people in their group. At least it's probably hard on Schaefer being the only woman. At least now they can spread that around a little bit. She'll have help. Although it appears most of the time Wheeler probably spends a lot of time in his basement playing video game stuff, thinking about women.
All right, Jim. Well, that was the AEW Women's World Title change. We now go to
certainly
the
was
4-way ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship.
We go to it. Oh boy, folks, you had Josh Alexander and Hichichichia taking on Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, taking on the Hardley Boys, taking on Bandito and Burger King in a 4-way ladder match for the tag team title. And each of these teams, of course, has qualified in other multiple team garbage matches to be in this multiple team garbage match. And we're 3.5 hours into the show. And this is the point in time now where the Lollipop Guild get to play on the trampoline in their backyards with their friends, and we are forced to watch. So yay, now we have fake-looking indie wrestling now with ladders. Brian, it did go with entrances. Half an hour, 30 fucking minutes. What is the purpose of watching this? It's how can you keep track of who's doing what to who, or in some cases, who's even on what team? They just go out and do shit intermittently for over and over. What is the purpose of this?
I can't answer the questions for you. I thought it was
What is the meaning of life?
I thought it was a just fine tag team, multi-team ladder match. We've seen a lot of those, it seems like. And Brodito big win. Obviously, Tony Khan's really getting behind them.
Well, it's because he finally came up with a tag team name that doesn't sound completely stupid. Brodito sounds like something you might have heard in a fucking 90s movie, but at least it rolls off the tongue. But the big news, though, was after the match was over with. That's what everybody's talking about, because after they all play for their, half-hour recess, and then the kids scamper back to the back, the two guys left in the ring all alone are the Buckaroos, Maddie and Nikki. And they're just standing there, but they're obviously not pitching to anything, and the cameras are not cutting away, so you know something's about to happen. And then here comes Jungle Jackoff into the ring. How long's he been? It's been a year, I guess, right? Or more. And I haven't really been counting the days because I've just gotten so relieved that we haven't had to look at him. But they stare at each other, and then Jack tackles Matt, and they all get in a fight. Now, wouldn't he? Whose side was he on when last we saw him? Wasn't he affiliated with whatever thing that they were trying to do to stay on the cards at that point, the Buckaroos?
Oh, not stay on the cards, help run the company. Remember, he turned with them to attack Tony Khan, and because they couldn't be fired, they were EVPs, he was protected. He was aligned with the Bucks, yes.
So now, a year later, he comes back, he's mad at him.
Well, if you heard any of the commentary, and if you did, I apologize, but if you heard any of the commentary, I think Excalibur said they set this up with something on their YouTube show.
Oh, Christ. Well, of course they did. Well, anyway, Rocky Romero ran in because he was just dying to get a piece of that fucking prick. But Perry dumped him too, and then the Hardley boys double super kicked him and grabbed him and were about to knee lift him, and he looked up at him and he laughed. They're big on that spot. They love that. Because as he looks up at him and starts smiling, the lights go out. And then you see on the video screen, there's Perry digging up a coffin. Now, right there, they completely lost us because anybody that looks at Perry would see that there's no way he could dig a 6-foot deep hole by himself.
Perry digging up a coffin with his cinematographer friend.
Yes, who didn't want to help with the shovel. And then he chains it to the back of his bread delivery van and drags it down the road. And now he's in a laboratory where he revives Dino Douche. Good old Luchasaurus. And then suddenly the lights come on and there's Dino in the ring and he double choke slams the Buckaroos. Now, again, the biggest pop maybe of the night was for Dino. They loved it. He's back. That part was great. When Perry showed up in the ring, people were like,
However,
it was ambivalence.
When when the fans started dancing on their own to the Jungle Boy song and then they played it, I feel like it was almost like a moment of happiness amongst their fan base because it was a feeling akin to years ago when we used to come and dance to this song.
Oh boy!
Here at the AEW.
Well, yeah, and for the new viewers or new listeners out there, when Dino hugged Jack and they played Tarzan Boy, and that's what the people like because now they've got their own song that they can not only wave to but sing "whoa" in some form.
I'm really happy for the family, the estate, and the publisher of Baltimore. They were waiting for a night like this. It's been a couple of years. They didn't know if it would ever happen again.
But that's the thing. The people like Dino. The problem is he can't work, as we've seen repeatedly, and nobody there can book him to hide it. because either they don't know how or he won't listen. Perry's back where he was 5 years ago as the stooge to the fucking big guy that they like. And now we're going to, again, so that the Buckaroos can bring together the whole Lollipop Guild, they can work with more of their friends. So we're going to see this. We waited a year for Perry to come back for him to be in the same spot he's in 5 years ago as the sidekick to the fucking large lizard.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We're going to see the Jurassic Express against the Young Bucks. They're all friends, so hopefully that means they'll have fun, cooperative matches that the fans will really enjoy. A big moment here, and a big moment. I hope they bring Anna Jay in, maybe as Jungle Girl. Put her in a loincloth, have her swing out on a rope. Go all the way with it.
What about the outfit that Marino Sullivan got to wear in Tarzan the Ape Man?
That works for me.
2 years before Tarzan and his mate, the Hayes office had taken over. Anyhow,
but this was something. Just the kind of lack of reaction when he got in, the ambivalence to it, and then of course while they're holding him about to hit him and the lights go out, the video was like a minute, maybe a minute and a half, but maybe a minute. They didn't do anything to Perry. They just stood there holding his hands, watching the video.
Yeah, no, when the lights came on, he was still down there. And, well, he's used to being on his knees in front of them with them holding his hand or head or hair or something. But he had not, in any way, shape, or form tried to move.
And by the way, I know they're friends, but if you're going to reanimate anyone from wrestling history to be on your side and help you, that's who you're going to pick?
Well,
because that was part of it. They had a video of him bringing, like Dr. Frankenstein, bringing him back to life.
But that's the thing. You can't just reanimate anybody now. It has to be a cold-blooded reptilian because they last longer in the cryogenic thing.
So then I guess the question also is the pay-per-view in England. Was Luchasaurus going to be there if Kip Sabian hadn't gotten hurt? Or did they just, instead of waiting until this to bring Luchasaurus back, which would have been even bigger if they both returned on the same night, not if we had seen Luchasaurus wrestling with the heels for the last month.
Well, now that you brought that up, that's the thing is that now we know why that Pip Sabian was abusing Luchasaurus over the past few weeks to give him more pissed off reason to turn babyface in this.
Right, but remember when they brought him back.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. They brought him back once. He was a big heel, but he wasn't a heel because he was being abused by his partners. But now his program is with the Buckaroos instead of the people who've been slapping him around for the last month.
And when they brought him back, they had a short little vignette video, a lot shorter than the one they had here, and you only saw
probably shot at the same time.
Yeah. So that means Jack Perry brought him back, and instead of saying, like, I'll need you there for me, he's like, go help Mother Wayne in this battle against Christian.
That's right, yes. None of this makes any... And he's got 100 guys sitting home he's paying to do nothing, but he had to bring the Lizard back for a month for that match that he shouldn't have had Edge and Christian work because it took the edge off Toronto.
It's going to be interesting to see what the show becomes. In the same week, we're going to have the return of Jack Perry and the return of Orange Cassidy. So you're filling the show back up with the stars of year one.
All right, well, moving along, because we got an update on the previous stars that, Moxley and Darby had the Coffin match, right? Well, all of a sudden now we're in the back and Moxley and all of his stooges are there with the Coffin. Apparently, we're expected to believe that an hour and a half or so they had this match. The heels were allowed to carry the babyface in the Coffin out of the arena, and nobody has tried to get the fucking guy out of the coffin.
And by the way, the coffin door wasn't even closing at that point when the match ended.
No, they had broke it when they did the splashes on it, so it's just laying on top of the deal. But the point is that nobody stopped them, said, hey, let that fucking guy out. They're just back there in the back of the building, and Moxley mumbled against something. And all the stooges peel out in the truck. And then as soon as they do, The coffin lid comes off and Darby comes out with a lead pipe and hits Moxley with it and puts him in a body bag. And he's going to hit him with a lead pipe and then he sees something. Oh, well, this is better. So he gets a spray can of some kind of shit and sprays it all over the bag and then sets the body bag on fire with Moxley in it, who's going, oh, and then a guy runs in with a fire extinguisher and a couple others drag Darby away after they put Moxley out from setting him on fucking fire.
And it burned through the bag. It wasn't like some fireproof bag because it got through the bag, if you noticed.
Yeah, no, they did some kind of stunt where they said, okay, now you're gonna be here with the goddamn fire extinguisher, right? That type of deal. What these fucking morons?
The only believable part is, obviously taking law enforcement and putting that aside, I believe you could light someone on fire backstage at AEW and not lose your job.
Well, they've done it several times.
So obviously this feud isn't going anywhere.
That has a double meaning.
How do you go? What's next after a coffin match? And then a post-coffin match burning in a body bag. Gabe Kidd, did we ever see Gabe Kidd again after he was dragged away in that body bag?
I forgot about that. No, he must be out in the desert. We need to get Dr. Jack Perry on that case to revive him too.
Yeah, you were counting members of the Death Group before. The not Death Triangle. The Death Riders is what they are. He's another one, I guess. He's a associate at least.
Anyhow.
Damn it. I just want the music.
Thank you very much. Well, I know the people out there are thinking already, but it's time for our main event. Only 4 hours and 15 minutes into this show. So they deliberately extended the show and made this shit drone on even longer in the attempt to somehow, and Brian, I don't know why that anybody couldn't talk him out of this or explain to him the actual facts of the thing, but Tony Khan legitimately believed that if he made his pay-per-view go 5 hours, that somehow that would take viewers away from Wrestlepalooza, that people wouldn't tune away from his show to tune in their show. Most of them weren't watching his show to begin with that were going to watch this thing. And many others were probably still trying to figure out how to watch the WWE show because they were confused about that. But would you think the number of people who were dissuaded from watching the WWE show at all because this thing was going into its 5th hour would be negligible or minuscule? Which one?
I can't imagine it would be a big hurt to the overall number, maybe a small blip on the live number. But remember, too, WWE announced in advance they're starting with Cena versus Brock.
Exactly.
They put it out there right away, 8 o'clock, or not 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. This is where we're going. That's why I was surprised when the main event went as long as it did. But I don't think that hurt the WWE event. I think issues with the app and downloading it and resistance to downloading it or paying for it, those are going to be the issues.
Yeah, but this was just needlessly extending this show already that had multiple things. How many people have you heard about? We talked about we're bleeding. How many pieces of furniture so far have been broken? A guy's been set on fire. And then these two come out. Kyle Felcher and Hangnail Adam Page, or Hang Ma'am, as the internet has started calling him. And they're going to go 40 fucking minutes or whatever because they think that that means they're going to have a classic world title match and really get Kyle to the next level. When in actuality, they're going to break a few more tables, but that nobody's going to bleed. Nobody's going to be set on fire. Now I bet a lot of those people in the building in Toronto were like, shit, if they'd have got this thing over in 3.5 hours, we could be home to see Brock and Cena. So their men's world title match, and again, they're calling it that. And I don't know who's the proponent of that, but it's oddly worded. It's ridiculous that anybody's going to confuse it. It's ridiculous that you should actually put the women's world title on the level of the men's world title to even differentiate them. While I'm not sure that either Kyle or Paige fits the criteria fully to challenge for the men's world title, it's just stupid wording. It's very odd. Having said that, this should have gone on in the middle of this card. There is no real issue here, and they got a boring world champion that says the same shit in the same way all the time, and he has the same kind of match same way all the time. And the only time that Paige has been different is when he's been in there with somebody that knew what the fuck they were doing, like MJF or Punk. That's the only time his matches have been different. And with Kyle, he's going to work as hard as he possibly can and do anything that he's asked to do because he's grateful to have this spot. And he seems to be a very nice young man. He's got all the physical talent in the world, but he will never learn anything in this environment about wrestling. He won't learn how to put matches together. He'll keep having matches like this. He will learn bad habits instead of proper psychology. And this may be the biggest wasted potential on the whole roster. And as I said before, I don't even think he should be in an NXT program. He should be in an OVW, where instead of 150 guys, there was 25 or 30. And there was individual instruction with on-the-job training from guys that still understood the business and the opportunity to apply it in small towns in front of small crowds without being exposed before you were ready. And Kyle could be a phenomenon. But right now, he's going to be another talented, athletic indie guy that they have to take and completely retrain when he eventually gets up there, and it may be too late. Yeah, the crowd sits staring at a lot of times and then pops on shit that looks like somebody got injured. And it's a Paige match. They do a lot of moves with the table, and Paige will go up and climb up to the top rope and backflip backwards off without looking 2 or 3 times, just because he knows the guy's supposed to catch him. And they're trying to have a classic, so that means they'll do something that should hospitalize both guys, and then they'll lay there and sell for fucking 5 minutes and then get up and be 100% again. And watching this match put me in suspended animation. I just zoned out. What's the difference between the babyface and the heel? They're both doing the same shit. What? The babyface gives the heel a tombstone pile driver on the floor and then a DDT on the floor. And then they sell forever, but then Paige climbs up to the top without looking and backflips. He's already done it once before. And Kyle moves and kicks Paige. And Kyle's up and fine after the tombstone and the DDT because now it's his turn. And then he brainbusters Paige through a table to the floor. And everybody lays there forever. And they got 15 more minutes of match to do after a brainbuster off the table through the floor. And then Kyle, I felt bad for him. It was the punishment that his leg was receiving when he was slapping the shit out of his own leg over and over. But if you kick Adam Page 73 times like that, and it hadn't stopped him. Just quit kicking him and try something else. That's what they would do. They would suddenly jump up and do 100 miles an hour leading into a stunt and then sell till the point where it was like, Jesus Christ, please get up and do anything. The Grand Canyon took less time to form. And then they had set up a table on the floor, but then they hadn't used it. They had misdirected us, but then they went back to the apron in front of the table that they had set up 15 minutes earlier, and Paige dead-eyed Kyle off the apron through the table right on his head on the floor, and they laid there forever. And then they did a quick exchange, and then they laid there forever. Then they hopped up and they went 100 miles an hour. And Danielson was having a hernia trying to will this by sheer power of brain into being a classic wrestling match. It was the longest match I'd ever seen. And then Kyle ripped the turnbuckle pad off of the turnbuckle. Which was it the second, Brian, or was it the third time that had been done so far in the show? I lost track.
Not counting Marina Shafir. That was a different thing. I think second, maybe.
No. Yeah. No, she was just unloosening it. This was ripping the buckle off. Well, anyway, he put Paige on the turnbuckle and kicked him, and then went for the brainbuster on the turnbuckle. And then my picture froze, and the buffering started again. And it just buffered and buffered and buffered. And I couldn't get it to do anything. And then the notification came up on the screen. Something has gone wrong. Please try again later. And by the time that I could get the thing back again, it wanted me to start all the way from the fucking beginning. So I went online, and I understand that he fucking flung him off the top rope on his head and beat him.
That is correct.
Is that about what happened?
That's about what happened. After 38 minutes or so, he beat Kyle Fletcher. Adam Page did.
Yes. So again, and again, before anybody knocks my internet, that's why I went and checked my speed. 946 over 860 something. It's just, what the
Did you
if I really wanted to, what?
Did you
no,
pause it?
I was watching it. It suddenly just froze.
No, throughout the entire 5-hour event, did you pause it?
Oh, many times. Many times.
Maybe that triggered it so that you ran out of like the live feed.
No, this was with the next morning. This morning, when I came back, this was the last part of it. I had watched the last half of it until then with no problems whatsoever. And if it had been something I really wanted to see and I'd paid for it and it did that, I would have been fucking pissed. But it's fuck this streaming bullshit. But also the point is, again, in their minds, because they've been taught this way by whoever runs the school of indie wrestling. Oh, if we have a great match and it goes a long time and then I beat Kyle by the skin of my teeth, then it will get him over. No, what would have got him over was a concerted and cohesive push as an individual, not with a real manager instead of Don play acting sometimes as a manager, and an issue, a personal issue with the fucking champion, and him almost trying to fuck the champion and the champion foiling his evil deed and escaping by the skin of his teeth, not just let's do every move we know how to do until we can't do anymore and then we'll just end it. But that's what they do over here.
And again, it was hard to even focus on this, for anyone who thought I was just going to watch both on different times. I watched one right into the other because I had to watch everything because we're doing this today. And I had Lesnar versus Cena on one monitor and AEW on the other, and I cared more about Cena versus Lesnar than I did about this match that didn't seem like it was going to end.
Well, of course, and that's what, again, they're kayfabing themselves in AEW, as Vince used to say, because just like with the overrun where they've lost most of their audience at the end and they shoot the big angle, they put their world title match on where anybody that was watching their show, they would have seen the world title match regardless of whether the show had gone fucking 5 hours or not, but they put it in the goddamn position of whether now that it's 4 hours into this show and we've got this mega match on the other thing, maybe I'll come back to it and maybe they don't. Why put your world title match against a match from a much bigger company involving much bigger stars instead of getting it over so they have the choice of switching over if they want to? Because probably a number of people probably did. But
well, that was All Out.
It's another example. It's excess. It's doing the same kind of things over and over in different matches on the same show. It's wearing the live crowd out that's already basically come there just to see people hurt themselves. And they're going back to where it's like year one, which was in terms of talent, the first year was their most amateurish year because they had Pockets and they had Jungle Boy and they had the Cucamonga Kids and they had the Japanese outlaw girls, and it was rotten. And now they've run off the talent that they've acquired in those intervening years, and they're having to focus on these fucking backyard friends from Calabasas County or whatever. It's boy, here we go.
Well, there we go. That was AEW All Out 2025. And of course, Jim, if you said, what did I do with my day? Your family may be saying that too. They may say, hey, why are you watching wrestling all day on Saturday? They may want to sue.
You know, you told me that your wife and children were thinking of filing a class action suit against you for non-support because they never see you anymore. I think the best thing to do would be call the number one man in America that you need to call if you need to sue a son of a bitch, no matter how so-so that suing may be.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, and the legend, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. Will handle your... Do you think does he do divorce cases? Will he sue a husband on behalf of a wife or a wife on behalf of a husband if they're mad at the other person for watching too much wrestling?
Only if it's a star.
A star on wrestling or a star that he's suing?
I think if like a country star was like, hey, Steve, I need some help. My wife, she's going to leave me because I'm watching Raw every Monday.
So you're saying that he might have been the one to say, Tammy, why not give George another chance?
Well, no, I would not say that was him. We established who that was a few weeks ago, but a great man who could help you if he has the time. Stephen
If you're married to Tammy Wynette and Steve has the time, he'll be glad to get you out of it. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. He's a busy man these days. He's kicking tail in a variety of locations.
All right, lots of drama. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the final portion of the show, the look at WWE's Wrestle Palooza An extravaganza like no other, meaning it was hard to find because you didn't know where to find it, or you did know and it was a pain in the ass. From Indianapolis, Jim Wrestlepalooza.
Indianapolis, Indiana, baby. Well, they had about 15,000 plus people up there, according to the incomparable Michael Cole. And to make sure that I was getting this show, I tuned in. I should have turned in. I tuned in about 15 minutes early, and I caught on their pregame show, and they played it later, but the Brock Cena package was incredible. That was a piece of art, especially not only the editing, but when you sit Brock down and do a sit down with him and get sound bites, that's the best use of Brock speaking. The longer he goes, the more the aura diminishes. But that's the whole thing about this. The WWE in general and this particular Wrestlepalooza show, the quality of the production from a technical standpoint as a television product is light years ahead of what AEW does or can do. And a lot of that truthfully masks the fact that WWE, while AEW, again, does way too much, WWE just the bare minimum that they have to. But it's just presented in such a big time way. The God Bless America by the war and treaty, I don't know what they won a Grammy for, but I know them from a diabetes commercial. But it's not, I mean, this show is just, you can tell they've got their shit together as professionals. And the history package between where they juxtapose the history of ESPN and the history of the WWF and how they're both renegades, and nice to see Styx getting a check, but the music fit. And Triple H doing the voiceover written especially for him. The editing is amazing. And did you notice, Brian, when they showed Vince on the package, he got a pop in the building.
That sound, that pop was him crashing into someone on the Merritt Parkway, I believe.
Well, no, you would have heard a little glass breaking after the fact. But anyway, the package, amazing editing. And the point was, sports is entertainment. Always has been, always will be. And then suddenly the lights go up and there's Triple H in the ring with the white ropes and the whole color scheme. Welcome to the final form of sports and entertainment. And they blow off pyro, and it's a big time show, and they don't sound like do-it-yourself announcers, and they don't do shit that doesn't look like it's supposed to when it didn't work in rehearsal because they didn't rehearse it. They don't build fake rooms to break through fake walls. This is... Anyhow, and then the truck pulls in, and it's Pat McAfee in Indianapolis. Imagine that. And he gets the big entrance, the big hometown pop, and the McAfee chant. And I don't know why he only stayed the first 3 matches. Did he have is he on home incarceration? He's got to be in by 9, or what was the deal there?
I don't know.
But otherwise, that added something for the people in Indianapolis, and McAfee's a name from, television, as seen on TV.
Maybe to prepare for Sunday. It's, at the NFL.
Well, Jesus Christ. He's already sitting there and he couldn't stay 2 more hours. Nevertheless, it's time for Brock and Cena. And here comes Brock, and he's fucking massive. And I mean, just giant sized. And boom, he gets in the ring, and they wait and they milk and they get the Cena chants. And the music plays, and it's the big pop. And here comes Cena out with 50 little kids dressed just like him in the t-shirt and the cap and the... Brian, I'm not that familiar with children. How old would you say the age ranges of those children were? You are familiar with children.
the age range, I don't know, anywhere from
how old are they when they're about
7
feet
to
tall?
14? I don't know.
Well, they were about 12 inches on either side of 3 feet tall apiece. Wouldn't you say that's an accurate representation?
My first thought was, where are their parents? You know, there's a lot of kids there. It's a lot of kids. Where are all those parents?
And boy, I tell you what, just for liability's sake, if a couple of those kids had gone off the reservation and gone rogue and run down that ramp, we'd have had all kinds of shit going on. But anyhow, so they gave the statistic. Cena and Brock are 1-1 in the WWE, at least. And Cena's got 99 pay-per-view wins, and you just knew this was going to be number 100. So they got the Let's Go Cena chants going on, and they have the in-ring introduction. Cena gets his big intro, and old weird hair starts to turn and announce Brock, and suddenly, ladies and gentlemen, it's Happy Heyman. And he's on the apron and gives Brock the big intro. The former UFC champion, undisputed, blah, 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 blah. The last real ass kicker, Brock Lesnar. How does Paul get away with doing that at his age and his condition, where he can just do that and not keel over? But it already had the big fight feel, and that was the thing people wanted, to be honest. Even though everybody's a heel, you wanted to hear that introduction. And they set it up on SmackDown, didn't they, the night before, when Brock walked past Heyman and said, we got to talk.
Yeah. And then the next night, you got this.
Yeah, that conference led to an introduction. But then they rang the bell. And I've got to say that I am somewhat astonished. And I will give my thoughts on this thing. It started the way that I knew it should, and it probably would, that Brock was all over him. And the people are chanting, let's go Cena, but it's the clotheslines and the turnbuckles and the power slam and the clothesline and a German. He's really kicking the shit out of Cena. Then John fires back up and gives him the tackles, and finally Brock takes a bump and 2 attitude adjustments, and the fans are going batshit, and then 3 attitude adjustments. Well, the third, not 3 more. And he gets a 2 count. But then he goes to do the you can't see me and runs off the ropes right into a fucking F5. And then Brock picks him up and gives him a second F5. And Cena's selling, and Brock picks him up and gives him a third F5. And Cena's selling, and Brock's taking his time, a fourth F5. And he takes his time, a fifth F5. And he takes his time, a sixth F5. And he covered him 1, 2, 3. It wasn't 10 minutes. So that was interesting. And then Brock came back in, F5 the referee, and then gave Cena another F5 and left. And Cena finally got up, and he wanted to walk out under his own power, and he milked and got the thank you Cena chants and the big cheers. But they're obviously going to bring this back, one would think. Is this his retirement match where he gets some type of redemption? Was that the deal they made with Brock before they brought him back? You're 1-1 with Cena. Let's go 1-1, and you'll end up 2-2.
And you'll be the last match?
Because otherwise, why would they didn't need Brock and Cena to save this show, because really the interest was the mixed tag. And yes, this was a big headline match, but why would Brock is over? Brock doesn't need to destroy John Cena to be over enough to face anybody else. So to destroy Cena in a big major event like this in his last match in Indianapolis and one of his last matches in the company, now that they've just course corrected and made him a babyface as he should have been, and everybody's supposed to feel good from here on out, I think this has to be the setup for the last one where he gets his redemption and fights back against the monster that he wasn't ready for. Because otherwise, they just kind of made people feel flat. And why did Brock need this to face anybody else that they might want to book him with after Cena's retired? Is my question.
You know, what I was thinking about, too, is Heyman. Heyman and Lesnar feels right. Brock never seems happier than when he's bouncing around while Heyman talks about him.
Yeah.
That's the biggest smile I've ever seen on Lesnar's face. I've seen it several times while Heyman's just talking about him. It works, and it's a cool moment for the fans, for Heyman to reveal himself. I don't know how he snuck to ringside, but for Heyman to reveal himself.
Actually, they had a piano crate with a sheet over it on wheels. And while nobody was looking, they pushed it to ringside and got a crane from AAA to take the top off.
Well, I don't know how he got there, but all of a sudden Heyman was there. A cool moment. Fans reacted to it. Beyond that, did he do anything to actually help his heel charge?
No, he left. He didn't even stay.
Yeah. He just introduced him.
Yeah, that was, and that's what they wanted, and I can see that. A little wink, wink. But no, if they want to book Brock with anybody else after Cena's gone, this didn't aid in that because Brock doesn't need to be any more over. The only thing this would aid in is a return match where Cena says I just got to see if I can do this. So we shall see.
Is that a good final match? And if you know you're going there, it gives you a little bit of time to build, even though you have some stuff in between. Cena having to overcome Brock Lesnar. Is that a good final match? And Cena would have to win that, right?
Well, yes. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, don't you know, Jim, it's a wrestling protocol. They should do a job on the way out. When you're leaving the territory, yes. Not when you're leaving the goddamn business. That's why I've had the gripe with Cena being a heel for much of this is that we said from the start, people didn't want to boo him. People wanted to see the last time and, their hero that they like now more than they did when he was actually their fucking hero. And now that they've got it course corrected, again, that it just doesn't make sense. Now, a lot of people would say, well, should Cena have put over a young heel that's going to be there full time? Again, yeah, if it wasn't billed as his retirement tour, this is the last time you get to see him. I think especially the very last time, it's a feel-good moment. It's not just somebody putting somebody over because they're leaving. It's they're done forever. And I mean, there's always circumstances and context that would change your mind. But I think potentially what they've done is with this, they've said, okay, we can build Brock up and Brock can beat Cena because it's believable. And then we can build a return match where Cena gets his win back and Cena doesn't have to beat another of our full-time fucking guys on the roster. And at the same time, who do they want to see right now on the full-time roster that would benefit from beating John Cena that's not already over, that would get over just because he beat John Cena?
Austin Theory.
Oh, gee, is he still there?
I don't know where he is.
Where the fuck did he go?
Remember, he beat Cena. I was going to make him after Cena tore him apart in a promo.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think, this is probably the thing to do. But nevertheless, that's what happened with poor old John Cena when he just got took apart and put back together like a ransom note at the hands of Brock Lesnar, followed by a 3.5-minute commercial break, followed by a Saudi Arabia plug, followed by a WrestleMania in Las Vegas plug, followed by a merchandise plug, followed by a plug for Hulk Hogan's beer.
Well, Jim, when you hear about all those plugs, you may say, how do these businesses operate? Some businesses are always looking for the right partner to get going in an online sense. What a bizarre setup, but it kind of works. Jim, we know someone who helps us with our online store, and they can help the listeners as well, our friends at Shopify.
Are you tired, ladies and gentlemen, of looking at one commercial after another? Why don't you just listen to us do a commercial? That'll cheer you up. I'll tell you again, John Cena, he gets a shit kicked out of him by Brock Lesnar like that one more time, he might be ready to get in a whole new line of work even earlier than he intended to. There you go. He needs to make some money. And if he's going to retire at the end of the year, he's got to have something to fall back on. I'm worried about John. I don't know if he's planned for his future. But folks, you can plan for your future right now by bringing your future into your present and making it a thing of the past. You'll just make so much money you won't even worry about whether that makes sense or not, because Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States is responsible for Shopify, or vice versa, the other way around. It's probably more than that now. We've been saying 10% for a while. You know, their tentacles are expanding everywhere. But they can get you started, yes, with dinging and bells ringing for me and my gal. They can get you started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates that they can help you use to build a beautiful online store to match your brand style, accelerate your content creation, write product descriptions, enhance product photography. Now, like I said, they've got that X-ray camera that you can take a picture and they just strips the clothes right off whoever's in that picture, and you can see their nasty bits.
They don't have that. That don't exist. You shouldn't want something like that. Mind your own business. Look at the nasty bits of the people that invite you to do so. And of course, we invite you to work with Shopify.
And best yet,
oh, yeah.
Shopify. Yes, better than the nasty bits. Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping. That's getting to be a big pain in the ass these days, but if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. And of course, that's not selling in a wrestling sense where you're going to be screaming in pain and anguish. That's selling in the sense that you're going to give a bunch of people things and they're going to give you money for it. You're going to just live a happy life, and you can turn your big business idea into cha-ching, 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 to that stuff right there with Shopify on your side by right now signing up for your $1 a month trial period to start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. That code there will get you that $1 a month trial period so you can start your way down your path to prosperity. You'll be farting through silk. You'll be shitting in tall cotton. You will be the master of your own domain with Shopify.com/JCE. And you'll hear the cha-ching, cha-ching. You'll hear that.
You'll hear that. Why is pissing in tall cotton a good thing as opposed to...
No, shitting in tall cotton.
Oh, is that what you said? Shitting in tall
Yes.
cotton.
Yeah, because if you're cotton short, well, then it gets shit on a lot. But if you're shitting in tall cotton, well, then it ain't going to get shitty because it's already going to be full grown and tall. You can cut it down and sell it that way. You know, when them cotton balls get rotten, you can't pick very much cotton. Them old cotton fields back home where I come from.
Once again, Shopify.com/Cornette.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it a shot. Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
It's going to happen one of these days, but Jim,
not going to happen. Yes.
Let's return to beautiful tropical Indianapolis, for WWE Wrestle Palooza.
Well, and this was the big reunion of the Usos, the former great tag team that is split apart when one of them got a chance to be a main event guy and the other one they've been doing everything they can to keep him afloat. But now it means something that they're back together because it's been a couple of years. And they took on Paul Heyman's number one tag team combination in his stable, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. And they made LA Knight the special referee because he has been having these various issues with all parties, except he kind of likes Jimmy Uso. So they added that late, the special referee thing. I don't know whether somebody had a fucking idea or whatever. But nevertheless, again, this is a big time visuals they did. The Usos entrance. They even had them come out and cut the music and had Jimmy cut the promo to pep the people up with the cell phone spotlights so that they could do the big entrance, and everybody's waving and got the lights and the music and they got their video. And of course, it all took forever. But then after they got that business out of the way, Heyman come down with the Heyman come down. Sound like Uncle Harold now. And then Heyman come down from the old Mulholland place. Heyman came down with his boys. And this is what I was saying again. I'll just say it real quick one more time. If you have a regular tag team composed of guys that are seen as by the fans as main event level talent, and Braun Breaker is, and Bronson Reed is there now, and Jey Uso definitely, and Jimmy to some extent, it gets people interested in tag team matches again. But they need to do things like this. And this was not a classic tag team match by any stretch of the imaginations, because the Usos are not a good working tag team in the ring. They're sloppy as shit, but they have the personality. It's like two Jimmy Valiants teaming up in the Carolinas in the early 80s. So they get by with that. But otherwise than that, it was a tag team match that people wanted to see the baby faces win. They have the match. Boom, boom, boom. And suddenly, they were kicking it into high gear and everybody was hitting everything. And Jay hit his splash. And then Jay grabbed the chair, and of course they still have relaxed rules over here, even in this company. They can't have a match without chairs and tables and shit. But Jay pulls out the chair and whacks Braun Breaker over the back, and Braun's so solid, and Jay leaned forward. The chair bounced right back and immediately smacked Jay in the goddamn head and busted him open. He's gushing blood. And
how about that?
I'm like, what the fuck? But just let that be a lesson to all the prospective young wrestlers out there. When you hit somebody that's pretty solid with a fucking chair, don't lean over forward with it. Give yourself some fucking space. Because the spot that the heel does every once in a while where he swings the chair and the guy moves and he hits the top rope and the chair flies back, that comes from real life. I've seen it happen for a shoot too. So anyway, he busts himself open, and then I don't know if they were going to do anything else there at that point, but you heard LA Knight, he saw him bleeding and he looked over, and then he goes over to Braun Breaker and he says, go to the spear, because you can hear it on the tape. And then he speared fucking Jay while he's bleeding. And then they basically kicked it in, speared both the Usos through the fucking table in the ring. And then blonde splash, blonde splash. Blonde splash. Reed come off the top rope on one of them. 1, 2, 3. That's what happened. So they may have got out of there a little quicker because Jay was losing blood by the gallon.
Yeah. The Blondells look good. The Usos, we'll see what happens with Jey Uso's face. And obviously, they lost, so you would think this isn't the end of this, but we'll see what happens with Jey Uso's face first. And they're putting him over big. And even when they came out, I don't know if you noticed, they had matching leather jackets. They're looking more and more like a team.
That's the thing, is that you need to create two individual guys, but they look good together and they have connection in their matches where they don't have to double team like the Midnight Express, but they have to have some ability to work together, which they do. And they need to be seen as main event level guys. I'd put the fucking tag team belts on Reed and Breaker because they're useless now. But as on Reed and Breaker, that's gold for them to carry. It's something for them to brag about. And they can beat all the other teams. It doesn't hurt anything. And then they can have this program with the Usos, who are 18 million time tag team champions. And it might elevate it a little bit and get something out of the tag team belts that are just wallowing in obscurity.
If they got a little bit of a run with the tag belts, not like a 2-week thing and they drop them, but a little bit of a run with them, it would do more to establish those belts or reestablish them than anything else, because there's no other team in that company that if they held the belt for 8 months, it would mean something. They would tell you it meant something, but it wouldn't mean anything to the fans.
Well, because all they'd been doing is defending it in the second preliminary match against guys that ain't over. Anyhow, you know what was next, don't you, Brian?
I do. Yes.
Would you like to tell the people what was next?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it the women's championship match?
Yes, it was.
It was Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer for the held up women's Is it the women's or the WWE? Which,
well, see, now don't ask me.
Women's World or WWE Women's.
The Women's World. And Wayne's World. Party on. Excellent. See, I'm about to ask you some questions because you, the first thing you asked me, did you watch Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer? And I said, on a day of 10 hours of back-to-back nonstop wrestling, you're going to ask me, come on, it was a great match. Stephanie's great. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good wrestling match where they performed wrestling moves correctly and might have even been exciting for the audience that was already sitting there. But let me ask you a couple questions, Brian. What personal animosity, personal issue is between these two young ladies that necessitated me seeing this match?
There is no personal issue. It is a battle for a held-up championship.
And normally in wrestling, well, there's nothing wrong with that. A cold match, but for a world championship, well, that could still be important, except how many women's world titles are there in the WWE system right now? You just asked.
Women's
Is it
World.
the WWE women's title or women world title or NXT title or?
I don't know if NXT is worlds. At least it's NXT Women's Champion, and then there's of course the World Champion and the WWE. Yeah. Or maybe it's just Raw and SmackDown. I'm not exactly sure how it works. Now there's Intercontinental, but that's not World.
Yeah.
That's
well, it is not the world, but it's a belt.
It's just all the land, all the continents. That's all it is. Yeah, I think there's tag belts. But again,
we don't even need to get into the tag team situation, but basically there's multiple single women's championships in the company. This is for a vacant one that was vacated by Naomi, the one we were interested in when she got pregnant.
Well, Jimmy Uso was interested in her too. That's the issue.
Well, yeah, unfortunately he got there first. But now we've got two young ladies fighting each other just to see who's going to get the belt that the other girl gave up when she got knocked up. And what really blistering fireball bring down the heavens promos have Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky cut here lately or in their careers that makes me want to listen to them talk me into the building and see this match?
I can't say anything about Io Sky's promos doing that for you. I think Stephanie Vaquero, that hasn't really been the direction for her to do that. It's been more promos to establish her personality and who she is as you watch her dominate and beat everyone and have a quick rise.
Would you say that her promos are of the level of, I don't know, maybe even not, let's say not Becky Lynch, but even a fucking Bianca or a Rhea?
I don't think we've seen that from her yet. They are enjoyable because she has an accent, so it's a very pleasant accent to listen to her talk.
Okay.
But no, I would not compare her to the promos of the women trained in the WWE system right now.
So basically, you wanted me to watch a match between two girls that don't do good promos and don't have a personal issue.
Right.
And are fighting over one of the various miscellaneous women's championships that neither one of them even holds, that they're just fighting over it because the other one that we were interested in, as we mentioned before, had to go on maternity leave in the middle of 10 hours straight of wrestling, and they're going to go 20 minutes. And then at the end of the match, they shake hands, hug, and bow to each other. So the answer is no. I'm not going to do that because I don't care. And I'm not saying that Io Sky can't do a lot of great wrestling moves. I just don't care. And to be quite honest, since the business that was attracted to this show was primarily because of Becky Lynch and AJ Lee, I would have kept Stephanie and Io off the show entirely so that Becky and AJ, as the only females on the show, were that much more special. Because not one single person tuned in because Stephanie was wrestling Io. But while Lesnar and Cena was a big thing, and Cody and Drew are stars, and the Usos getting back together was an attraction, the business of this show was the mixed tag match. Why put girls in to go 20 minutes before you got more girls coming out that we paid to see?
Well, again,
that's why I didn't watch this match.
It's not a one girls match per show company, and it hasn't.
Well, but it would keep them more fucking special. Well, this was not needed. Who gave a shit?
Well, it was a good match. The fans got into it. Spectacular finish. One of the most spectacular finishes I've ever seen. She hit, I don't even know what you would call it. They called it something like a corkscrew moonsault. As fast as you've ever seen it, she hit it perfectly and then rolled her up in a way, too. She hooked her leg with her legs. It was immaculate. It was so good. Stephanie Vaquero, watch out Rhea Ripley. Stephanie Vaquero is really, really, really good. Really, I understand you hate Io Sky. And
I don't hate her.
All of her future children and anyone else in her family, but
number one, it was a wonderful fucking flippy thing off the top rope. I wouldn't have been laying there underneath that thing. There was not very much margin for error at all. But I don't think Rhea Ripley has to watch out for anything unless Stephanie Vaquero suddenly learns how to fucking act like a movie star and cut a goddamn incredible promo. Because this is wrestling. We need to want to see you fight, not just go out and hop around. Everybody's doing that these days. But that was my summation of I'm sorry.
Really good match. Really good match.
I'm sure it was. Why do I care? I'll tell you what I cared about the next match, because that was the one and that's where they made the mistake. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what, I think more people cared about Stephanie Vaquero versus Io Sky than cared about Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre on this card.
I think you're correct in the way that it came across on television. That's why I think they should have put Cody and Drew before the mixed tag, because it was a letdown. It's not they don't like Cody, and it's not that Drew's not a star. there wasn't that big of a pressing issue between them that they've been working on and building up lately. But while there was nothing the matter with the match, it couldn't match the mixed tag. That's what they came to see. And they knew the Cena and Lesnar was already done. And now the mixed tag, and they're fucking tired. And here comes this match, and they're going to be polite. But that's what it was. It was a polite response. Mixed tag should have gone on last.
Well, speaking of which, Jim.
Yes.
The big match, I would say the biggest match on the show. No disrespect to Brock and Cena, but I think this is the match that the show kind of felt like it was built around. The return of AJ Lee to the ring as part of this intergender tag team feud amongst couples. Where's Chuck Woolery when you need him?
Well, what about, not Chuck Woolery, but who was it? Jim Lang, the host of the dating game. Now, Seth and Becky came out. They were lowered on a platform in purple spaceman outfits. And again, remember what I said. Now that Becky is with Seth, Heyman doesn't need to go out twice a night. Heyman can concentrate on the bronze, and Seth has somebody. In singles matches, I think it would be good if Becky goes with Seth. They can all talk together. They can be in group interviews. But this breaks it up a little bit and establishes subgroups within the whole collective. Anyway, they got him chanting CM Punk, and then suddenly, come on, Mussolini and AJ Lee.
Oh.
See how it works there?
Hey, I mean, it could have worked. I don't know what you did.
Well, Punk came out, it's clobbering time, and they faded into AJ Lee's music and got a big pop. And as much as I like Cult of Personality, I guess it does fit better for her to fucking light it up or whatever it is. Is that a real pop group, or is that some Jim Johnston concoction from years ago?
I don't know.
Do we know this?
It may be the post-Jim Johnston period. I don't know. It sounds AI, but it's before AI. I don't know what it is, but it was the right move. You know, also, Punk, when he came out, his jacket said AJ's husband, I think.
Yes.
So it's all about her. It's a return match.
And that's the thing, is that these people are smart. They're smart to the business. They know what the fuck they're doing. What did I say beforehand? I said the people ain't going to want to see AJ and Becky start hip toss, drop down, arm drag, wrestling stuff. They want to see them fight. And they also milked it from the start because the people want to see the women fight. So milk it as long as you can. Don't let them in together. The babyface girl would want the heel girl, but the heel don't want any of it. And there's cheap shots and taunting and running and tagging, and you build the anticipation. And then Seth and Punk can do the spots around it and react and have the match that leads to the brief milking of the interaction. And for a while, Punk worked on Seth, and he established the axe handles off the top rope and everything. And then they cut fucking Punk off with Becky shot the knee in the back, and they got some heat on Punk, and they took their time because they were having a smart match that built and was laid out. Becky would get the cheap shots. Punk was milking the tag. He's got to get the, and when you think about it, he's trying to tag this 110-pound girl, but that would save him because they're telling a story. And Seth kept blocking him. And then they did a false tag. A false tag is the terminology where the baby faces actually do tag, but it's behind the referee's back and the referee doesn't see it. So he turns around and puts AJ out while the heels get their heat from behind. This is Wrestling 101. And then finally, Seth went for a dive in the corner, but he missed it. And Punk went for the tag, but Becky had pulled AJ off the apron. So they get more heat on Punk. They're really milking this thing. And finally, Seth is skipping around like AJ, trying to mocking her, and he skips right into a go to sleep, but Punk can't cover because he's had the shit kicked out of him. He goes for the tag. Becky tried to stop it, but they make the tag. And now the girls are in, and AJ hits the Thez press and the punches, and they have a fight. And she kicks the shit out of Becky Lynch. Her punches in the corner need some work. But it's been 10 years. Maybe there's a little rust there. And they have the crossbody and the 2 count, the big slap fight. And then AJ turns around and slaps Seth. And DDT's Becky, and they double team Becky. And then now it's kicking up a notch. Now this is what they built for, and the people came to see this. So boom, they're giving it to them. But it's not preposterous. They're not just kicking out of goddamn sledgehammer shots to the fucking head. Punk and AJ both did the Bulldogs. And then AJ got her hold. What is the Black Widow? And Punk got his sharpshooter. And then AJ got a Black Widow on Seth and got a big pop. And then Becky suplexed AJ, and the heels hit twin pedigrees. They kept this thing fucking going where it made sense. But there was a little interaction with the girls and the guys, not the distasteful kind. But it wasn't like unnatural where everybody was standing around trying to figure out what they should do because they'd backed themselves into a corner. And at one point, Punk gave the stomp to Seth. But then later on, Becky got a sharpshooter on Punk. But then Punk rolled through and started to get her. It wasn't like a domestic dispute, but you're reversing a hold on a woman. But Seth came in with a pedigree and a stomp, and AJ made a save. And again, then they got in the middle, had a 4-way hockey fight, and the baby faces cleared the announce desks off. And Punk was going for a GTS standing on the desk on Seth, but Becky threw AJ into Punk, and they took a hell of a bump on the desk with it all falling and collapsing. And finally, that left the girls to get back in the ring. Becky went for the manhandle slam, but AJ spun around her into the Black Widow thing, and Becky tapped, which is the only finish they could have done for this match. Now, I'm not saying she had a tap, but she had to beat her. And the people were going crazy for this shit. It made sense. It told a story. The people involved were over. The issue was personal, and the people understood it. This is fucking wrestling. Why is it so hard to understand? I yield the floor.
It was all right. Again, I haven't been really...
It was okay, dog.
I haven't been really into this whole, thing for a variety of reasons, but I thought it was all right.
Compared to what else we're watching now.
Well, compared to now, I'm comparing it to, ever. But
you can't do that no more because ever is a very long time.
What I didn't like was just the stuff of like Punk selling for Becky. I get that it equals, what, is going on there or whatever it is.
Well, but it was plausible. She wasn't picking him up and vertical suplexing him.
I don't think it's plausible that she could hold him in a sharpshooter or whatever. I personally don't think that's plausible. So that's my biggest complaint.
I gotta tell you.
You think Becky Lynch could hold him in a sharpshooter if he was trying to force his way out?
With the right technique and having got it and got it good, I'm just wondering if not like she had it in this match, but if you got it for a shoot, got it good and leaned back on it, I'm wondering.
I don't think she could. Natty Neidhart, maybe. But I don't think Becky Lynch could. So to me, that suspended disbelief a little too much. AJ,
that's why she rolled through and reversed it.
The move AJ was doing at least works because it looks like something that, that could be a bit of a pain in the ass. And she's small enough that it's hard to reach around and do anything. Where the fuck is she? You know what I mean? Like that at least is plausible, but the Becky Lynch doing stuff
Get
to
this
Punk.
cat off my back.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Where do you think they go from here?
I'm sorry, Mr. Brian Hart, master of the sharpshooter. See, here's the thing. If you apply a number of these holes as a shoot and in no way attempt to take care of a son of a bitch that you've got it on, there's some of these holes that once you've got them, even a stronger motherfucker can't get out of. I don't know, just because of the torque that you could legitimately power out of something like that if somebody was setting all the way out on it or all the way back on it.
And again, we're talking about a sharpshooter.
I've never been in a shoot hula hoop. I've never been in a sharpshooter.
And we're talking a sharpshooter, not an Indian deathlock or something. We're talking a sharpshooter.
Oh no, you get the Indian deathlock, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
That's why they used to put that on the old folks out on a tree out in the woods to kill them.
What?
That was what Gordon Soley would say. Have you never heard that story?
I don't know that story, no.
Oh, goddamn. Folks, the Indian deathlock used to be a finish in wrestling, and there is some, again, element of shoot in it in terms of when you get this hold on, if you didn't want it to be broken, the person that let you put it on would then have a hard time kind of getting out of it, because you tie your leg up or their legs around your leg with the toe hooked and all this shit. But the story in wrestling in the 60s and 70s was that the Indians would take the older, infirm members of their tribe out in the woods and put the Indian deathlock on them, put their legs around a tree in the Indian deathlock so they couldn't escape, and they'd stay in the forest and die, basically. Because they were, trying to make these goddamn Indians out to be big heels. But that was supposedly the thing. This hold was so inescapable that you could just take and put the hold on a person around a tree trunk and they wouldn't be able to get away. So how are they going to be able to get loose when it's your leg in the middle of their legs and you won't let them escape? Are you just humoring me now?
No, I'm listening to this explanation.
Listening intently.
Yes.
I had to teach Alan Iron Eagle. Do you remember him, Joe Gomez?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I had to teach him the Indian deathlock. They brought him into WCW. It was one of Ole's hiring all the cheap guys. And he was working in Florida. I guess Joe Gomez, one would indicate he was Hispanic. But they changed his name to Alan Iron Eagle and made him an Indian. Said use the Indian deathlock as a finish. And nobody in the goddamn locker room except me knew the Indian deathlock. So I had to teach the Indian before he went out to win the match with it how to do the Indian deathlock.
I just saw his name somewhere. It may have been the Observer for some reason. And it mentioned that he was very close with Ric Flair. And I was like, oh, I never knew that.
I think he died. That's why they mentioned him.
Oh. Well, rest in peace.
So now you feel bad, don't you?
Now I feel awful.
See, I led him down I started him on the road to ruin because I hurt him with the Indian deathlock, and it contributed many years later to his death.
All right, well, I guess my point is I don't think Becky Lynch could get Alan Iron Eagle in the sharpshooter either. Is the point of it. But that was the main event of the show, and I guess that's the problem.
We still had more.
There was still more after the match that was the match for this show.
Well, before we get to the match that went on last, all of a sudden, they get a big wide shot of the arena, and we hear bong, the Undertaker's gong. And I'm like, oh, okay, this will be cool. And then that's all we heard of the Undertaker's gong. Then it kicked into that rotten American badass music, and here came the Great Value Undertaker, the motorcycle riding version instead of the dead man version, out on his motorcycle with his do-rag, and he rode to ringside, where it just so happened, Brian, completely by random chance, Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan were sitting in the front row of ringside, totally unaware that this was going to take place. And Undertaker climbed over the rail and took a microphone and sat down next to her and started interviewing her. And they started trying to. It wasn't a comedy routine. Would you term it more? They were trying to do witty repartee or snappy patter back and forth with each other. Would that be kind of the description?
In between some awkward long periods of time where he's just standing in front of her and she's just clapping at him.
Yes.
While he's standing there with the microphone, you're waiting for anything to happen.
Is a little awkward. It wasn't funny. And it was not smooth. And as they did mention, they've been friends for years and years. So one would have thought they could have worked something a little bit better out to fill 45 seconds. But anyway, then he announces, are you ready? The first member of the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame will be none other than Stephanie McMahon. And she was overcome with the emotion to hear this, that she had no idea was coming. She just happened to be sitting there on the front row like she usually does.
They've never announced it in September before, ever. It's WrestleMania. Usually in April. Usually in March, we're still trying to guess who the last people are going to be.
They don't call people till Christmas. When I presented for the Rock and Roll Express, it was Christmas week that any of us knew about it. But there is no business reason why, oh my God, I was completely uninterested in the Hall of Fame next year now, but holy shit, now that they've announced Stephanie's going to be in it, it's changed my whole outlook. To announce it 6-7 months in advance to that it's Stephanie, and again, a lot of pony winning going on around here. What do you know who won the pony? I guess what I'm saying is they can't really say that it was a big thing. Like on our Wrestlepalooza first ESPN show, we wanted to announce that Randy Orton or Steve Austin or a major name past or present, Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, weird timing unless they're going to change the date of the Hall of Fame, which they may have to do unless they're going to start flying legends to Saudi Arabia in a couple of years.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, it's one thing to go to Las Vegas, but do you think any of these guys are going to go to Saudi Arabia to get a fucking ring?
And hopefully be able to take it home, but you never really know. You never know.
You might have to take the ring and shove it up their ass.
Look,
to get it home.
There's been a concerted effort. If you like Stephanie McMahon or not, you can't deny it. There's been a concerted effort to babyface her on WWE programming and also give her something to do. There was no demand for a Stephanie McMahon podcast. They hyped the shit out of it. There was no demand for conversations with Stephanie. She just needed something to do. She's been all over the show. We've seen, when I say all over the show, just random appearances, like Stephanie McMahon's in the crowd or Stephanie McMahon's here, all presented as like a way to, let's just give her an applause, because
it's like they're floating her here and there. You're getting used to seeing her. She's all over the place. Nobody's got any picket signs, so she's one of the good ones. They're whitewashing members of the McMahon family.
Yeah, and she's about to be the first member of the McMahon family next to Vince Sr. in the Hall of Fame. I don't even know if Jess McMahon's in the Hall of Fame. I'd have to check.
I don't think they did.
And he probably shouldn't be if we're talking about wrestling promoters, to be quite honest with you. But it is the WWE Hall of Fame, not the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
But you said Stephanie needs something to do. Why do you need something to do when you got that much fucking money? Who wants more shit to do?
Maybe she doesn't have hobbies. Maybe her whole life has been based around her father and mother's business, that she never developed any skills. Maybe she should take a knitting class.
Boy, in that case, then I'd be running off to a fucking South Pacific island where I could hang out next to the coconut trees, buck-ass naked all day and fucking diddle myself. If I'd have been in that family all these years, just working.
Were they known for taking vacations?
No. Not Vince. I didn't keep track of Linda's comings and goings, but no, it was famous. Vince. That was their name when they teamed up for Tony Khan, Lince. No, Linda might go somewhere. I don't fucking know, but Vince was famous. About 10 days at Christmas when they used to take a break, he would go to his mansion in, where is it, Fort Lauderdale or that part of Florida, the $12 million place that he spent 2 weeks a year in, and he'd make phone calls and do paperwork down there. That was his vacation.
Again, it's an interesting decision doing this here. I mean, I can't imagine she didn't know something was up. I know they tried to play it off like it was just a gigantic surprise. Why was she sitting ringside there as the Undertaker? What did they think the Undertaker was going to do? And Nick Khan came over quickly to give her a hug because obviously he was in on the whole thing.
He was working security over there too.
But yeah, there's definitely a movement to make Stephanie McMahon an asset of the company and protect her and make her happy.
Well, and for all the things she's done to make all of us happy, it's just a small price to pay.
And to be quite honest, if we're going based on WWE, I'm not saying she's undeserving. Michelle McCool was undeserving. Stephanie McMahon, if we're talking about big stars on WWE TV, for good or for bad,
yeah,
she's deserving of being in their Hall of Fame, absolutely.
And I agree with you on the McCool comparison, and I also agree with you on in the WWE universe. Yes, she is a level of talent. I don't think they needed to introduce it or announce it 6 months ahead of time, and I think they could have done a better job than have Undertaker come out there, and he's not Phil Donahue. I mean, it's the Undertaker. He can't just go and interview random people. So, Stephanie, let me just, it's the Undertaker. He's hurting his image when he comes out and acts like a normal person and doesn't have anything interesting to say. That's, the problem.
Yeah, by the way, we just got a question on a drive-thru the other day, it must have been the drive-thru. We got a question about, is the Undertaker the biggest stooge of all time? And you said no, and then the next time we see him, he's giving Vince McMahon's daughter a Hall of Fame induction. So I don't know.
I swear to God, how the worms have turned. I said, no, he's not a stooge. He just stood up for business and what was right, but he didn't go around telling on people and just fucking saying, yes, sir, and now, yeah. We got a lot of bad feedback on that one. A lot of fucking people now mad at Undertaker. He's a fucking stooge.
Well, Jim,
speaking of stooges,
there's one more match. I didn't say that, but there's one more match to stooge off here on the show, and hopefully our mouths keep working throughout this review.
Well, they put the WWE title match on last between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, and again, it's the big one. It's the big belt, the world title. They should, as a rule of thumb, put it on last. It just, after the mixed tag, this was not a hot enough issue. And that's another thing. Drew McIntyre is a tremendous heel personality. And he is, I don't know if it's been a year now or a year and a half since he came back and got in a thing with Punk and unveiled this new outlook that he's had and started cutting these brilliant promos. Drew McIntyre's one of my favorite fucking guys in the company. He's awesome. And Cody, of course, has been, whenever they'd get off from around his neck, he's been a great success. It just, the old gray mare ain't what he used to be based on the way they've treated him, but still he's the star and everybody likes him. And both these guys can work, and either their wrestling is tight, nice and snug, a hip lock takeover. Cody's selling is animated. Drew has a heel attitude and body language. They do a stunt every now and then. They'll take a bump over the desk or whatever, but it's not overdone. Their matches are logical, professionally put together. It was not a hot issue that people wanted to react to more than the mixed tag team match was. And that's just because this is not an angle or a program that they've been beaten to death on TV here lately. They needed a title match for the Wrestlepalooza. So they had a good match. And again, they did their various shit. There was a spot here, Drew McIntyre ripped the turnbuckle pad off. And then he teased putting Cody into it, but he ended up hitting it. But I swear to I didn't see that when I was growing up as a wrestling fan, because all the turnbuckles in the Tennessee territory were foam rubber with duct tape wrapped around. You couldn't take the pad off. Pads cost money. They used foam rubber and duct tape. But goddamn, there's an epidemic of it, isn't there? How many turnbuckle pads have we seen taken off in the last day?
They're now calling it the George Steele position.
Anywho, finally, they ended up on the floor after a number of false finishes and 2 counts and things of that nature. And Drew was going to kick Cody through the front of the desk like he did sometime back, but the referee got in his way and delayed him, and Drew said, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. But by the time he did, he missed Cody, put his foot through the fucking front of the desk and hurt his leg. And then even though he was able to get back in the ring, he went for the kick, but his leg gave out. And Cody went up top for the big super Cody cutter and then hit the crossroads 1, 2, 3. Without stabbing him in the head with a screwdriver or a pair of scissors, or without a ball peen hammer, without setting him on fire, without a super tombstone pile driver off the top rope through a thumbtack covered table onto the concrete floor. He hit him with a couple of wrestling finishes and beat him. So
it's kind of dry
again
after the previous match, which was the one the fans were really into. I know that went a while too.
Yeah.
This felt kind of dry, and I almost thought they may do a title change just because otherwise it kind of felt like the match was going nowhere in a sense.
Well, no, but it would have been crazy to switch the belt on this match because it wasn't the time. It wasn't ready, wasn't built, wasn't meant to be. But they did everything fine. But as you said, and as I said, the mixed tag took the oxygen out. But when you compare this 3-hour and 15-minute show with stars, with a tremendous production, with easily defined roles that everybody's got, and with an issue for almost everything that people could understand, this is why they're there, and the AEW show is why they're there. Because they can't get out of the fucking rec center in Reseda or wherever they all used to do their own pro wrestling orangutan shows and just let everybody have as much fun as they wanted to have. I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the participants. And they don't know how to put a major league production together, or they refuse to try to learn. So this is where we're at. We're being raked over the coals for thousands of dollars per ticket by this evil goddamn multi-billion-dollar conglomeration that's setting the world on fire. And the only hope for poor old downtrodden pro wrestling is an ADD-addled billionaire with very specific mental concerns that thinks about wrestling in the smallest and most outlaw of terms and has no eye for talent. Pick your poison, Brian.
Well, speaking of poison, that was WWE Wrestle Palooza. And Jim, with that, the drive-thru has closed. Where's this other?
With that, you can poison Antonio Inoki so he doesn't have to say that anymore.
Inoki, not Kanoki. Come on. There has to be like a way to get it. I mean, why would there be like a hidden third one that only plays one every 100 times? All right, well. All right, a regular drive-thru next week with your questions, songs. I believe we have some songs that have been sent in. You can send yours to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com and so much more. Of course, Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. The big sale coming up. What's going on, Jim?
Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern. We've beaten it to death. Tune in next week for more details.
At JimCornette.com, you can, of course, get access to the archive. Patreon.com/Cornette. $5 a month gets you access to the archive. Oh, fuck, the Mets lost. Going back to 2013, Patreon.com/Cornette. Of course, the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Subscribe today. Full episodes, clips of the episodes, omnibus collections. All with that great artwork. George Livinitis, our guest artists, so much more. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel.
We love the art of George Laurinaitis.
Livinitis, let's not do that to him. Yep, once again, Tagado. And of course, it's not what he says, but it sure sounds like it. And of course, the wrestling news each and every day. Get your wrestling news for free. TheWrestlingNews.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. But until the Jim Cornette experience in several days, or a few days, several days from now, a few days when you'll hear it, and next week back here in the drive-thru. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!